listening to the
Hey, MFM. See you on the lips.
Back attack, dude.
Fun Fire!
Hey, yo, homies. Good.
Slide down the big hills, you know what I mean, on the big, nice burgundy snowboard.
All right, we are happy to bring you another episode of The Bomb Hole, which is presented by Pub Beer. First things first, I got to do a quick PSA. Eastone is taking some personal time and will not be with us this show, but he will be back and better than ever. Mikey is temporarily filling in, so we're going to start off with Mikey. First things first, how we doing?
I am doing great. Chris, how are you?
Happy to have you in the booth. Happy to be chatting with you.
Honored to be here. Thank you.
To my left, we have Forrest Shearer in studio today. Forrest, how are you doing?
Greetings, Earthlings.
So good to have you in the booth. For the people that don't know who you are, I'm going to do a little intro. Forrest has had a long, diverse career in snowboarding, from filming trick-based video parts with massive cheese wedges like Chad's Gap to transitioning into human-powered snowboarding via his splitboard, riding serious high-consequence lines, and summiting peaks like Denali. He stands up for what he believes in. He's an activist, a ripping snowboarder, a ripping surfer, a ripping human. It's going to be a great, great show. We're going to start this thing off with a hard-hitting topic, though, Forrest. We're going to hit the ground running. I'm going to start with a Patreon question, so thank you to our Patreon members. One of our members is Sean Lucy, and he asks, how does it feel to be solely responsible for having Chad's Gap footage in the Bozrec movie? So let's just jump right into the Chad's Gap session and how that came to be.
All right. Thanks, Sean, for the question. Chad's Gap. Salt Lake City, epicenter for snowboarding in my eyes. Moved here to pursue a career, and, Grizzly Gulch, up Little Cottonwood Canyon. It's a place that kind of has myth and lore for backcountry cheese wedges. Kind of starts in the park, and you kind of work your way up to Grizzly. Chad's Gap session. Let's see. I mean, it's kind of a hero story. That's kind of the arc of any rad hero story goes in the whole myth and lore of filmmaking and life, I guess. So, yeah. I mean, how far do we want to get into it?
I mean, I think this is like a fascinating story, and to provide context, like this is the biggest, baddest jump in snowboarding.
Right.
And so I know it's like a hard-hitting topic, but I think it's a fascinating story. So just get into it. Just dive in, however as deep or shallow as you want to go.
Yeah, totally. It's funny. We were hiking, took Chris up splitboarding yesterday with some of the boys, and I don't know how I found it, but it's Chad's Gap is like literally on Google Maps. You type it in, and it tells you right where it is. I thought that was pretty rad for sure.
Bomb Hole's not on Google Maps. Chad's Gap is.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting there. Yeah. I mean, there's so many iconic jumps up Little Cottonwood, Grizzly Gulch especially, Flagstaff, Grizzly. I mean, it was always known for these rad quarter pipes, epic hip jumps, and then I think eventually it worked up to these gap jumps, and it's kind of the perfect setup where there are these tailing piles, old mines, and the tailing piles like the landing. So it was this perfect opportunity. Probably skiers hit them before, and it was like, oh, you build the jump here, and that massive, tailing pile, that's your landing. So it's almost like this step up, or in a sense, almost like this Benedict kicker that has like this really, forgiving landing. So it's like as much airtime as you want, over 100 feet easily, and you can land on this really perfect run out, which is kind of like the ideal setup for, as physics go in snowboarding. When you're bigger you go, obviously you want somewhat of an easy landing, So, and at that point in time, I think it was, you build these big jumps, and it was like you throw a snowball. You throw a snowball off a cliff, and you're like, oh, that's how fast I got to go, or maybe that's that sweet spot of that landing I was going to hit. And Chad's Gap or pyramid jump, you throw the snowball, and it's like Hail Mary. As far as you can go, wind that pitch up and just toss that thing. Yeah. So pretty sick. But Chad's Gap, this was a session, the one that everyone talked about. Travis Rice, Ramon DeMarchi. This is from the era of pop and yeah, massive air hole. Excuse me, bomb hole. We'll go air hole and then a bomb hole because we're talking about big air.
Perfect.
Yeah, Pop was like an insane year. There's a crazy amount of snow in the Wasatch right now, so we always kind of go back to like, oh, when was the 6th year? Pop was a pretty insane year. This was a year that like Mueller was doing. There's this little rock. What's that rock called at the bottom of kind of rock garden?
I call it Mueller Rock.
Yeah, it's
called
Mueller
Mueller
Rock.
Rock.
Yeah,
Mueller
exactly.
Rock.
It's
Yeah.
buried right now.
Yeah.
We tried to jump off.
I hit it. I actually hit
Really?
it like a couple. It's small right now, but I hit it last week.
Yeah, and he did this insane method that was like so iconic, and it was just this session that kind of went down this winter that kind of Shane and Hosnick and everybody spearheaded, that everybody just came to kind of the Wasatch and primarily Brighton to shred. And Travis, obviously, he's up in Jackson. So I think he kind of came down a couple times that season. I think we shredded Snowbird together a little bit, just homie sessions. But I think he really had his eyes on those gap jumps. I think Ramon was there like all winter long. But I think just the sessions just kept escalating that year and just more and more and more, bigger stuff. And at some point, you just run out of shit, brighted. You're like, all right, we're going to Grizzly. We're going to the gap jumps. Yeah. And I think we started at Pyramid Gap. I think we can go back to kind of the history of that and my first time hitting that, kind of different time, but we'll kind of stick to Chad's. So yeah, we had a session on Pyramid, which was incredible sesh. Trying to think who else was sessioning with us, but I mean, definitely Ramon and Travis, maybe somebody else during that session. But that was the session that Travis did the double cork. Yeah.
First ever front 10 double.
Yeah, which was insane.
Unreal. Ender of Pop.
Yeah, and being able to witness that live and see that go down, just, implanted in your brain forever. Just kind of slow motion. The way someone does a trick and you've never seen it before, all of a sudden it just like time stops and everything's just like revolving around this trick and someone in the air. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, those gaps, they kind of cycle through like skiers and snowboarders, and it's always kind of a battle of who gets there first, who builds it. It takes like a week to freaking build those things. So, you want to put your time in, and if you're not helping build it, etiquette wise, so you either got to ask to hit it or, it's almost better off just like building it again, or I don't know. It's kind of a sticky topic, but we ended up sessioning that Pyramid, that gap for Pop, insane session. Everybody threw down. I think I did like a back Sev melon and then a front Sev melon off that, and maybe a back, switchback one or something like that. And then I did some trick where I kind of fucked myself up and like kind of extended my back really hard on the landing. You're kind of high speed throughout the landing into the cat track to where you kind of unstrap to hike back up. Pull my back really bad, make kind of a mini ragdoll or something happen, and I kind of chilled for that session. And then it was kind of like, all right, what's next? We've hit Pyramid. I think Travis really had his eyes on Chad's.
How much bigger is Chad's and Pyramid?
I mean,
30 feet?
yeah,
Like,
probably something like that. Once you're over kind of 100 feet, you
Yeah.
kind of just got to be like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like this much bigger, that much bigger.
Another factor too is that Chad's is like steep down into it, whereas Pyramid has flat before it, which
Yeah.
a flat before where you build a cheese wedge makes a jump much better, less compression-y, safer. Whereas as Chad's is down to up, which makes it a little bit more dangerous and scary, sketchier. I think.
Right.
Sorry to add that context, but yeah,
No, for sure. Yeah, I think Pyramid has that opportunity where you can kind of set up and you can ride in, switch a little bit better, try some different tricks.
Both of these jumps, from people that have hit them, describe them as like going as fast as your snowboard will like take you and flying off a jump.
Yeah, pretty much. You're hitting max velocity of
Yeah.
these things. It's like when you kind of think you're going as fast as you can, and you want to be going a little bit faster than that.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
Everything in your mind is telling you no.
Right,
You have
exactly.
to just say go.
Yeah, you're kind of like time stands still, it stops, and all of a sudden you're like, you've hit freaking plaid. You're going Pluto off that thing.
All right, so how do we land on building Chads?
Okay, so we get to Chad's, another like week-long build. I think I got hurt on Pyramid enough to where I was like, oh, I'm down to help build Chad's, but it's going to take me a little while. I think I was chilling at a buddy's house, resting up while kind of the build was going on. And think it just happened pretty quick to where the crew was pretty massive, just kind of friends and fam that kind of helped everyone build this thing up and build it. I think up to that time, I don't think it had ever been built like that perfect. Yeah. Yeah. And so I think by the time I was ready to get up there, the session was going down like 2 days later or the next day. And I was like, oh, fuck. Not really any plans to hit the jump. More just want to be there to support the homies and be there for the session, Yeah. And at that time, it was like, all right, I'm going to come up. And I think it was like, okay, I'll help bring some stuff up, be there for the session. Chad's is a perfect spot because, both those, it's like peanut galleries, like prime viewing, stadium seating.
Amphitheater.
Right? The 300 movies about to be playing. It's like big dogs going down. And so I ended up dragging a grip load of like freestyle ski pads from Snowbird.
Wow.
And I think we were planning on putting them on the trees kind of below Chad's. You kind of see this shot, might be even the opening clip of Pop or just that session where Travis goes and basically lands like in the valley.
Back threes the whole thing, like 100 feet past.
Yeah, I think they have this like little chip song from like a golfer. He's like, oh, way past the green, and he's gone. And he just lands like, just barely makes it from, not landing at the bottom of the valley and just getting so bodied to where you'd be done. But he came out unscathed. Great little opening for that session. And those guys proceeded to sesh that jump via heli. So they were getting helied up to the top from Powderberg guides at the time.
Because that hike is, the hike to hit the jump is...
Yeah, if you're hiking to hit the jumps, at Pyramid, you're going to get a couple, but you better be prepared to like be posted up there all day. And so for those guys to heli into that thing, that's insane.
Yeah.
And Sage, when he hit it, I remember he back 12'd it years later, but he said that it was like it was his last go, all he had. Like he didn't have another go in him, and he's in good shape.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty draining hike.
Yeah, again, it's
after
like,
a big build.
Right. Yeah, you got to hike to the top of this mountain basically to get speed.
Yeah, and
for
you're
the run-in.
hiking with 80-pound bags of salt occasionally.
Yeah, exactly.
And
So
all that fun
so I
stuff.
put these freestyle pads on the trees at the bottom. Travis, he kind of like hooked a Louie and kind of landed in the valley. But if he would have hit it in the trees, he probably would have got smoked by the trees. But so the session kept going. Myself, Shane was probably filming on the side. Stan Evans was there. I think maybe like Scott Sullivan and Natalie were there. Hosnick was shooting from the heli. But it was like a crew, such a squad of like Salt Lake peeps and then a ton of other kids that like helped build it as well. Yeah. So it was definitely a day. We were up there all day. Insane session goes down. Some of the most iconic tricks in my eyes and some of the most incredible clips from Jaw shooting from the heli, like crazy. It was like
The back rodeo 7.
back road 7, the chicane. Insane tricks off that thing. Yeah, it was crazy. Such a succession. And then I think at some point, those boys shut it down on that thing, did every sick trick that they could do, and proceeded to go back to Powderberg guides, end the session with some beers and a barbecue, and that was kind of it. And we were all kind of just chilling at the jump, hanging out, having some beers, kicking it, and I think I was just chilling all day, just kind of enjoying the sun. Yeah, and I think maybe Shane or maybe Stan was like, yo, the light is getting insane on this thing right now. Like, best it gets up in the canyon. Wasatch and Little Cottonwood especially, we're like known for our sunsets here, and it's like just gets so money, just gets like purple and yellow and crazy colors, and all of a sudden they're like, dude, someone should go up and hit this thing. This thing looks insane.
Someone.
Right, somebody.
Who was
Someone-
that?
who's-
Someone?
Yeah.
Who would that? You mentioned
someone
Bozrek.
should do that.
Yeah, Bozrek should have hit that thing for sure. But no, I can remember there was a couple other kids, and I think I was like, all right, fuck it, let's go check this thing out. And I had made the call. I was like, let's freaking someone hit this thing with me. There's no way I want to hit this thing by myself. End of the day, running's just so shady.
Getting iced up.
Yeah, you don't even know what's going on. And I think what happened, I went up to the run-in. These guys were getting hellied from the top, so you couldn't really tell where they started. So it was like, where do you go from? So it was all like physics. Again, it's like, throw the snowball. Where are you going to land? You want to overshoot it, but you don't want to land in the valley. So it's like, and then you don't want to come up short on that thing.
Do not want to go on.
You don't want to go full.
I might rather. I'd
T-Hall.
almost rather come up short than go over it.
No, because that can get rock hard sometimes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's like
Well, T. Hall broke both his ankles.
Coming up short.
Coming up short on that thing.
Okay, I take that back.
yeah.
I think that was after this, but I mean, there's like this type of things where it's like, oh, Billy died off that thing. Do you really want to hit that? Mm-hmm. But yeah, you never know until you go. So it's like, all right, think this is a good spot to drop in. Looking pretty good. I think my grandma just like passed away recently or something like that at the time, and it was like going through my head. All right, this one's for grandma, respect and, thinking about just all the kind of things in your head at the time and kind of about the canyon and about being a local and fuck it, this is my time to shine, so might as well hit this thing. Proceeded to go down the run-in, maybe a couple quick kind of like couple scrubs, but kind of straight, and proceeded to do a back three off it. Cleared it, kind of a little bobble on the landing, but enough to where I was like, oh, this thing's kind of sick, actually. I think I'm going to go hit it again. And all of a sudden, like, oh, everybody's like, oh, shit, that was sick, dude. And
Juices were flowing.
exactly, enough to be like, oh, I want to go get a trick off this thing. Yeah, so
Shook
proceeded.
the cobwebs off.
Yeah, proceeded to go back up, kind of dial my scene in a little bit more. I think I was riding in the Lion Peter Strom at the time with like a freaking chef knife on the bottom. So it was like a sick board. Definitely in my mind, I was in the zone and proceeded to do a back five off it. Landed in a pretty sweet spot. Ended up riding out, and it ended up being right after I landed. Sun went down, and kind of like dream scenario. Yeah, and it was like one of those things that everyone there did it for myself and did it for the homies, and we didn't really talk about it after that. And maybe I think Stan had obviously shot photo. I don't think it was probably digi at the time. I don't think it was film, and then when he sent it to me like 3 or 4 days later, I was chilling, and then I was like, holy shit. Ended up being this crazy
The photo's insane.
crazy
Color.
shot. Yeah, the sun's going down, and I'm basically like airing over an airplane, like over Mount Superior in the sky, where you're just like dropping out of the sky on a back five, grabbing Indy, and it just looked epic. So
Orange alpenglow.
Yeah.
yeah, just like such a rad opportunity and a rad time to hit it, and ended up being a session that kind of went down in the history books. And for me, it was kind of a breakthrough time where I think we ended up using the shot in the credits in Pop. And it ended up being this kind of like secret movie in Pop at the very end. And I would always get people to come up to me and be like, whoa, what's up with that film? And I think Justin put like, we kind of made a little scenario where it was like, oh, Forrest wasn't allowed to hit the jump, and he hit it anyway.
Yeah.
So it ended up being this crazy build-up and this rad, time. And it was cool because a lot of those jumps up there are kind of originated from Chad's Gap is this skier dude, and he was this dishwasher at Alta. And he was just like this nobody that was known for freaking jumping over mountains. So it was like Chad's Gap.
Yeah.
So it's rad that to kind of keep that going, that kind of history of like locals shredding shit and kind of keeping it core in my eyes. So it was rad to be a part of that without even kind of thinking about it. It just kind of happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
That's special. And most people, in snowboarding are big cottonwood Brighton Lokes,
Yeah.
and you were a little cottonwood snowbird guy.
Yeah,
So that's kind
exactly.
of your backyard for the people that are unfamiliar. You know, that's,
For sure.
So that's
Yeah,
very
I mean,
special.
Little Cottonwood and Little Cottonwood Big. I was thinking about this yesterday, but Big was always known for LeBlanc, Jeremy and JP. You know, for me, it was like Brandon Ruff, Timmy Osler. It was like dudes that I thought were so rad, so insane. And I remember, I originally grew up in California, Southern California kid. Grew up doing surf contests before snowboarding, and had some buddies that moved to Utah. This was like the time where like wood rails, it was rainbow rails. It was like some J2
Yep.
rad like stuff happening on rainbows. And I saw those at Brighton, super fun, shredded those. And then at some point, I think my homies rode at Brighton, but they like worked at Snowbird because Snowbird was like a big resort. So it was like, there was plenty of jobs for people to do. You were like a ski bum. You freaking worked at the resort. That's what you did back then. And Snowbird was just this spot that I was like, all right, I think I'm going to like make it work. And it was something to me that was like, oh, I grew up in the surf world and this community of kind of tight-knit people. And I kind of saw that with kind of the ski snowboard community, especially in Little Cottonwood. And it was the spot that, you know, people from the West Coast, they don't really move to the East Coast. That's not like a thing. We don't want to get hit ice. Eventually, I think everyone's goal is to kind of move to sunny surf waves, powder. So it was like everyone from the East that I talked to, they were like, I was trying to make it to California. We're going to make it to Tahoe, but I had this insane day in Little Cottonwood. I never left, man. I was there one day, and I'm 20 years later, I'm still in that same spot.
Yeah.
So that was this rad place for me that was like, whoa, this is kind of close to kind of surf world and pretty rad. And and it was the time where there was the heads at Brighton, but at Snowbird there was, you know, Mikey Bassich, Tina Bassich, MCA from the Beastie Boys, Mark Frank Montoya, Cody Dresser even rode there. It was
Bjorn Linus.
Bjorn
these
Linus
guys.
and Eric. Yeah, it was insane, you know, and it was like such a rad time where, I mean, I moved to Salt Lake with like a 152. Yeah, I had no idea what I was thinking. And all of a sudden it was like I got to Snowbird. And I probably could have been fine on a 152, set it back, point it straight down the mountain, but there was all these like cat tracks and weird little spots. So you had to keep your speed. So it's kind of one of those places that you kind of got really good figuring out where to kind of, you know, gain that momentum, hit this thing, hit that. And for me, it was just the spot that I fit in. It was rad. There was like, this was the time where snowboarding was at that crazy rock star level of, you know, Sean Palmer or like, you know, Mikey Bassich even then was like, these guys were gods. It was like insane. Andy Hetzel was like, he was like the dude there. And it was like these guys were so scary and like intimidating and just more so their style of riding. It was like bombing down a mountain. And we had these dudes. There was this dude named Ox at Snowbird. And you would hear about this dude, and with a name like Ox, it's like, bro's just going to huck it down the whole freaking mountain, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, to where Brighton there's cliff names, and I mean, all resorts have their names. Everybody at locals kind of, you know, and at Snowbird we had like Jaws. We had like Upper Cirque. We had Silver Fox. Yeah, there's this film, Better Off Dead, and then there's a sequence of like these dudes at Snowbird, and it's like labeled Southern California, and they're like at the top of the mountain taking lines of snow, and they're like, dude, let's go drop this thing. I want my $2. And he ends up like chasing this dude off Hellgate, off the cliff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty fucked up. So yeah, Little Cottonwood's pretty rad. I mean, it goes from there like all the way back to, you know, the origination of like the avalanche transceiver and, you know, knowledge about studying avalanches. It kind of all somewhat originated from Little Cottonwood. It's pretty rad. And they're still, you know, to this day using howitzers with like missile freaking launchers to freaking do AVI safety up there. Yeah. Which is pretty rare. There's only a few places in the US that are allowed to use those.
Yeah.
Little Cottonwood. UDOT's one of those to like maintain the roads.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were stuck in powder prison yesterday where the road closed and we were the only ones up there, can't go down.
Sounds rough.
Yeah, it's rare.
Yeah.
I mean, back in the day it would happen, and then now, you know, there's so much snow these days. You're bound to get stuck up there.
Now, one thing I want to check out with you is a piece of advice that you gave me years ago. I think we were hiking around Brighton, filming with Shane and stuff. And you just mentioned to me, you're like, hey, when you hike, you know, I'm a street kid, don't know much about the mountains. You're like, you should fully extend your leg with each step to conserve energy. Where'd you come up with that? Or where'd you learn that? Explain that philosophy.
Yeah, you were telling me that the other day, and I was
think
trying
about it every time I go riding. Sorry.
You've told me that before, and I think about it.
Yeah, I was trying to remind myself of where I thought that. I don't know. I mean, it was probably a process of the split board kind of part of my life, and then maybe back to like hiking these gap jumps in Little Cottonwood, and just like spending so much time in spring walking up this mountain and trying to conserve energy to like go shred and hit something big. So it's like, you know, we all have these like whatever little things that we do in our head. And for then it was like, okay, I'm going to go full extension, take a breath, you know, do some Qigong, awaken the doors of life. But yeah, it was like this extension. Yeah. It's like kind of locking it in, using your, you know, your lower body and really getting those glutes firing and getting those quads in shape. So I don't know.
Instead of like if you're constantly bending your leg, you're using more muscles because you're kind of in like a squat as opposed to like locking it out and conserving energy is the theory.
Yeah, and I think it would like give you a little time to kind of give that quad a sec to rest and then kind of reset. So, you know, you think of your quads as like pistons. So that's like your machine, you know, your body's like, you are what you eat. So you want to make sure you take care of that body and make sure those things are firing at all times. So it's like, give them a little break on that hike up, give them a little quick rest.
So you put some race gas in your machine, or what are you running 84? You running, you know, high octane? Because it sounds like you're a high performance machine.
I mean, I think it's like pure acai in there. Get the purple juice going.
Superfood acai, some granola. This guy's a gallon of water. He's ready to go.
Right, a little mate. I think I mix it up on everything. You know, a little coffee, a little mate, a little green tea, matcha. And then I know I'm definitely into everything that Mike does.
Yeah.
In terms of his fitness and his level of maintaining the positive vibe that he emanates. You know.
Thank you. But I've been mostly eating like Captain Crunch lately. I don't know if that like.
Well, you know it's crazy.
counts.
If you if the crazy marathon runners, like, have you ever seen their diets? They
it's messed.
They're just calories. They just take a whole plate of just shit food. You know, we're talking pancakes, like peanut butter on top of the pancakes, and they'll eat a pile of food this big
right before the race.
Yeah, and it's like he's basically that's what he is.
Yeah,
he's like an ultra runner for snowboarding.
Yeah, we were in the car going back to Tahoe, myself and Jones one time with my friend Claire Gallagher. She's a Patagonia trail runner, and we're like, "What do you eat? Like, what's your routine?" And she's like, "Oh, just give me the cake batter, and I just eat a whole bucket of it before a 100-mile race, an ultra." And she's known for just like crushing insane results on these 100-mile races. And you're just like, whoa, that's insane.
You don't have that same mantra for big tours or no?
A little bit. I mean, I eventually get there. I mean, I think what we're getting at is you can kind of eat anything. You just burn everything off so quick, you know? And that's kind of always been my mentality of exercise. It's like always just be doing something, you know?
Keeping it moving.
Yeah, just don't keep stationary all the time. And I think that's kind of the goal in life is as long as you keep moving, you know, you make it to 50, you make it to 100.
Yeah.
And you keep shredding, dude. I don't think I'll be doing like a McTwist when I'm 100, like Todd or Hawken, but maybe I'll do a back one or a method or just a sweet
back
pouch
five
one.
Chads at 100.
Back five Chads at 100?
Yeah.
I mean, just throw me in some cryotherapy, dude, and get me up there Han Solo.
It's like you land it, you're a golden god, or you die on the battlefield with some honor, like a true legend.
Yeah, just freaking smoke me. Let's do it. Yeah, just get me out there.
We were talking about I like this skin track talk because you said this yesterday. I feel like my legs are pistons, and I always think about since I'm such a big split boarder, obviously spend so much time back there, almost as much as you. No, but I like to think about the fact that you focus on your heart rate, and your heart rate is kind of like your RPM gauge. And so when you're splitboarding, you know, a lot of times a rookie move is you're jacked up to go splitboarding. You're kind of sprinting right out of the gate, and then you kind of gas yourself out. But like I noticed, you guys are like train engines. You know, you're just slow and steady, and it's like, oh, we're in a steep section. All right, I can feel my heart rate's jacking way up because it's kind of I'm breathing heavy. I'll dumb the pace down a little bit. Oh, this section's flat. I can bump the pace up because my heart rate's staying mellow because it's flat right here. And so like I feel like maintaining a regulated middle of the road heart rate is how you go for a long time without stopping, which is the goal while touring.
Yeah, I think as long as you're not stopping, as long as you're like, we're going to get somewhere today, then I think that's the goal. But I think I heard Jones say at some point, it's like, you don't want to be going too fast to where you can't be talking banter. Because if you're going too fast and you can't continue that conversation, then it's like, slow it down a little bit.
Mm-hmm. So it's banter pace.
It's banter pace for
you
sure.
Keep a good banter pace.
Yeah, I mean, like the Wasatch, the Los Angeles, it's known for these like steep ass skin tracks in the whole touring community. And it's like, dude, do you have to go straight up that thing? And it's like, who are you impressing? Just your buddy behind you, or you're trying to impress freaking the other dude over here?
It's the ski mowers putting in that one. The ski mowers put that in.
Yeah, it's like, come on. It's like we're trying to get more friends out here and enjoy this. So it's put in a chill skin track, and you know, the switchback doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
You know, just make it just a little bit bigger, and we'll enjoy it a little bit more. We're still gonna get the same amount of runs in.
You know what's so cool about skin tracks is like I always look at animals, game trails when you're seeing them in the snow, and they take the mountain diagonally too.
Yeah,
and you're like these animals, these elk and these deer, they know how to navigate around these mountains. They basically put a skin track and they zigzag up through the mountains, just like, you know, it's the ski mowers that go straight up. It's their fault.
Yeah, one of the things I've always been into is desire paths, and that's, you know what that is, Mike? So desire path is when you see like. An architect dude, he builds like city planning, and they got the street that goes like, you know, might have an L to it, might have a little like curve. And desire path is kind of that pathway that someone kind of takes through the grass, and all of a sudden that's the trail too.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, if you want to go this way, go this way. You know, if you're a mountain goat over there, you're going to the top of the peak, that's all you. So it's like whatever way you're feeling. Yeah, might as well take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back that.
All right, we're going to take a quick break and talk to you about one of our sponsors, Sunbum. Their motto is trust the bum. And we do trust them.
I trust him.
We got a couple of friends that ride for Sunbum. They support good people.
Who are we talking? Big names or?
Huge. We got Jill Perkins. We got Brian Fox.
I think
Parker
Blake
Zumowski.
Paul. Blake Paul too, right?
Yeah, B. Parati. B. Parati is about as big as it gets these days.
Yeah.
Second.
I've borrowed sunscreen from at least 3 of those.
Mm.
I always forget mine.
Yeah, I run the SPF 50 mineral stick. It's like a little glue stick, keep in your pocket, keep yourself lathered up. It's important to realize that even if you're snowboarding, you can still get nuked by the sun.
Oh yeah, and you know I use it, Chris, on even cloudy days. The UV will really get you, especially if you're exercising and sweating. You know, put it on on a cloudy day. It also, I find it helps with windburn and other things too.
Well, if you want to support Sunbum, be sure to buy it at your local surf shop or local snowboard shop. They are a good brand that support good people. So, vote with your dollars and support Sunbum. All right, we're going to take a quick break and talk to you guys about Liquid Death. We've been annihilating these cans on the show. They look like beers, but they're just water. But big news, they actually have teas now. Jules, did you hear that? What's your favorite flavor?
You know, I've tried all 3 of them, and I like them all a lot, but I think Rest in Peach is my favorite. It's just really refreshing, and it tastes pretty healthy.
Healthy taste. Love that. I'm an Armless Palmer guy myself. I like the Arnie P. I like golfing. It's a great tea. So definitely check out Liquid Death's new teas coming out right now. Basically, they're available with free shipping on Amazon and retailers near you. As an added bonus, the Bombhole listeners get 20% off their first Liquid Death apparel purchase, available exclusively at liquiddeath.com/bombhole. Exclusions may apply. That's liquiddeath.com/bombhole, and murder your thirst with these new teas. All right, we're going to get into a guest question. This is a guest question from none other than the man I refer to as BMJJ, Big Mountain Jeremy Jones. Absolute legend. Here we go.
What up, Forrest? Jeremy Jones here. You were one of the most badass multi-sport sideways wizards I know, and I'm curious. You got 2 paths. One is to perfect firing surf. One is to perfect, untouched, stable powder. Which path are you taking? Cheers, brother. Let's make some turns.
Question from the boss.
Thanks, JJ. Love that dude. Always an inspo. You try to surround yourself with people that inspire you, and that dude for sure. It's kind of the evolution of his whole career. We all kind of inspire and aspire to get there. So, shouts big time. Perfect surf or perfect snow? That's probably, that's the biggest duality out there, In my head, it's kind of always spinning the whole time, the kind of yin and yang of kind of water and mountain.
Mm-hmm.
That's about as philosophical as we can get. But I'm going snow. Yeah, I'm going snow.
Because you're on a snowboard show, but like because you feel like you have to, or just because?
No, I mean just because that's where my head's at right now. I'm winter, and at some point I'll probably phase out and just surf. It's like we always kind of talk about that surfing's that sport that unless you grew up doing it, takes a lifetime to master. And it also is that sport where it's kind of low impact. So that is the sport that, you don't really have an expiration date. You can kind of do it until, you fall over and keel. Actually, that's the way I want to go, is like on some sick wave and literally with my GoPro on shooting myself and just like zenned out.
Just keel over in the waves.
Yeah, but dude, I don't know. I mean, surf was my first love, but snow is where I'm at right now. And I just got too much love for the sport and the community and all my friends. I think my goal is to get all the snowboarders in the ocean, but it's kind of like, it takes time, Yeah, surfing is like, I'm so lucky that I grew up doing it and that I learned that first and foremost. It was like surf and skate, because most snowboard heads that I hang with, they learn later in life and they're like, this sucks, dude. This is like so hard to do it. They enjoy it. It's like, we love being in the water, and they're like, dude, why did I pick the snow route? I could be like sitting on a beach with hot babes, drinking a beer and like Tavarua or like Pipeline. It's like, pick the wrong one. And for me, dude, I don't know. I grew up surfing and doing surf contests from a young age. It was like my name was Forrest, so it was like drawn to the mountain. It's like if my name was like Reef or Coco, then it was like pro surfer all the way. But
yeah,
it was Forrest, so I was like, all right, I guess I'm destined to be in the mountain. So eventually made it there.
How did you go from being Forrest getting shacked to Forrest whacking toe sides on fingers and cornices? Like, how did you get from SoCal to the mountains? What did that look like?
Yeah, it was, a process of when you're growing up, you always want to do something that your parents never really allowed you to do, or something that was just kind of far out of reach. And, my parents were hippies, so it's like, there was like, I don't know, it was like everything was like granola back then. Yeah, I grew up being a vegetarian. I want to go like ride motorcycles and dirt bikes. I want to get around stuff that like is gnarly and scares me, But growing up in the ocean, I mean, that was my first sense of wilderness. That was like my first wild place, and it was so rad that it was like a stone's throw from my house growing up. And it was like a place, back then. Parents are so worried about their kids these days. It's like, you got your phone, you're always checking in. And then it was like, mom's like, drop you off at the beach. I'll see you at dinner, You and your buddies are like, you're on your own, which was great, And we, pre-Instagram, just kind of be out there surfing all day long, You needed food, you'd like scrunch up some money and like walk up to Burger King on the freaking military base at Trestles. It was like... you'd figure it out for yourself. You'd get it. Some old dude would run over you on a freaking longboard. You'd like scrub it off and be like, that was gnarly, but I want to get back out there and get more waves.
Yeah.
But for me, it was like snowboarding was that thing that was like just out of reach, that I was like, I want to explore the mountains. I want to get up there eventually. And then it was by any means necessary in high school. It was like ditch school, get a ride up to Big Bear. I grew up in Dana Point, which is kind of sleepy beach town.
Doheny.
Yeah, known for Doheny. That's where I learned to surf. It was kind of a definitely a surf lore spot. Funny enough, that's where like Snowboarder was based for years, which is pretty rad. Kind of a hub of action sports. And early on, it was kind of destined to end up, in the surf world or kind of the action sports community. I had friends that grew up and, ended up starting Volcom, Troy Eckert and Richard Wolcott. Badass dudes. Friends that started Nixon, Chad Denana. So many legends that went on to do rad stuff, and many times got offered a job to where if I would have took that job and took that route, I'd probably be pretty well off and, on that path of marketing. But I chose to kind of follow my passion, and that was snow, and Utah at the time was that place. So that's kind of where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
What age did you move from SoCal to Utah?
Yeah, I mean, it was right after high school. So it was kind of like just jumped right into Snowbird University and kind of took that on. And, yeah, it was eventually kind of, through snowboarding, it's so cool that we have this opportunity to meet people around the world and travel to places like that. Snowboarding is kind of that gateway, and that mode of operation that eventually gets you to a place. When people travel, it's like, why do they travel? Maybe some people do it just for like, I want to go check out Thailand or check out this place. But some of you are like, oh, I like watches. I want to go to Switzerland and see watches. But for us, it's like snowboarding brings you to Japan. It brings you to like Sweden, brings you to Alaska. These places that are like, you wouldn't really normally go to, just like pick it like as it's your destination. And so for snowboarding, it's like I have incredible friends all around the world that I've, established lifelong friendships with these people. And now, Forrest is that funny ass name that I always got teased about as a kid. And it was like Forrest Gump was out. And, I've had $1 for every person that told me to run or do something for sure.
You got hella nicknames though, right?
Yeah. So it's like, in Europe, it's Forriega. That kind of came from Peter Strom and my Swedish friends. Forry is kind of a Utah one.
Yep.
Bosque, that's down in the Spanish-speaking countries, and Mori-san, that's Japanese. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love that you have so many nicknames, first of all. It's amazing. And I remember seeing you grow up when, I first saw you on the scene. It was an Alliant board, which Alliant was sick-ass company.
Really good team.
Good team. What were the early sponsors? What did they look like?
Yeah, the early sponsors, we were munching down an acai bowl this morning with a ton of granola, and I was telling Chris that right off the bat, it was like, damn, if I'm going to be like a kind of dirtbag snowboarder, I should probably think about what I'm going to eat. I can't eat $1 burger from Del Taco every day, It's kind of going to get old. I'm probably going to get sick of that. So I was like, oh, dang. Clif Bar. There's like bars I can actually like approach this brand and maybe they'd be down with like flowing me like food and keep me sustained out there. So some of my first sponsors were like Sambazon Acai, Guayaki Yerba Mate, just mega granola. Just,
Always been crunchy.
Just keep it crunchy. And then Clif Bar was one of the first ones. But I think it was through at the time with Alliant, because Alliant was like a pretty rad time of my life as I was just really focused on backcountry jumps. And I think it was through Shane and a lot of homies that this was a time where it was like Forum was already doing their thing. They had their Forum 8. And at the same time, I think kind of Alliant was forming. And they might have got like a little, note from Shane and Jamil and his crew that kind of had this alliance going on. And it was like something that was like, whoa, alliance, that's pretty rad. And I think from Igmar started on Type A at first, and Type A was insane, like one of the most all-time greatest logos ever in snowboarding.
For sure.
And that was like Nate Cole.
Best style.
Igmar, and it was like, still today, even people that are like, his part in Meltdown Project is like probably.
And Substance and Meltdown Project.
Yeah, exactly. Some of the most insane parts ever. So I think Igmar went from Type A, and then Atlantis that kind of blew up that whole thing with Daniel Frank, and then I think they started Lion, which kind of was under the radar, and all of a sudden they came out with this sick team, and it was kind of Sweden and Japan. I think it was like Mike Miyazawa and Gregor Haglund that started it with Ingo. But yeah, they came out with this crazy Swedish team, and it was like all the legends from kind of snowboarding that kind of era of like Sebu Kolberg, Satu, Jakob Songevist, Peter Strom, just freaking rad ass dudes that were kind of in the mix in the US, but not quite. I mean, I think this was like when the whole Scando kind of revolution kind of first wave hit, kind of before Yoni Machman and Yoni Mami and Ami and those guys.
Yeah, Ville.
And Ville was part of that too. I mean, just legends, just like the best style that I think really kind of propelled where we were in the US to kind of add in those tricks and add in maybe a little style in there. Yeah, it's a little bit more. I mean, everybody has rad style, so it's just kind of all really depends on what you kind of see there. But yeah, it was like these rad dudes from Sweden, and all of a sudden they had like Cale Stevens, my buddy Babs Charlet from Chamonix. Give that dude an air horn, Babs.
And Cale Stevens.
Yeah, and Cale, dude. Cale's the man. I love fucking Cale so much. But yeah, Babs was this dude from France that got me on a Lion as a flow rider, as an am at the time. And Babs was this, he was kind of like a pre-Arthur Longo. He had this incredible style. He was born in Chamonix. His dad was basically a mountain goat, invented the ice axe, in Cham. And Babs went down the, park, freestyle riding, because at the time, nobody really rode mountains. Only like skiers and mountain goats did. Yeah. So I think Babs won like junior worlds for skating in Europe at the time, in France. And I think Babs had kind of an injury that just, he couldn't snowboard anymore. I think it was a knee one. And at the time he got into surfing. And for me, that was at a time where, I wanted people to surf with me and, I wanted to shred. So it was a rad time that a line was just blowing up. Went to this crazy park shoot with Shane and some of the homies at the time that were filming. And it ended up just being this heated session. I think John Summers was on the line as well. It was just this crazy-ass crew. But yeah, Line went on through the 2000s to be kind of this rad brand that same time kind of an era of absinthe films that I really liked. That it was just, part of the sauce, part of that infrastructure that really built a period of snowboarding that I really enjoyed, and a lot of my friends be like, dude, those are some of the sickest films.
Yeah, huge period of progression during those absent film times.
Yeah.
I just want to run it back to something you said earlier. You were talking about the team having really good style. And this is a great segue from a question from Chris Christensen. Here we go.
Hey, Forrest. Chris Christensen here, buddy. Stoked to hear you on the bomb hole. Question for you. I've always been a fan of your style, and you and I have also always talked about how important hand placement is, and you have some of the best hand game I've seen in snowboarding, and I also think it's so important in surfing. Nothing looks worse than someone looking like a composer flapping their hands. Who in snowboarding do you think has the best hand game?
Wow, dude, you hear like rail game and air game, but hand game. Wow, it's pretty sick. Thanks, Chris, for the question. Appreciate you, buddy. Chris is one of the most insane surfboard shapers, and also, give him an air horn for sure. But a badass motorhead, back to kind of the endless summer vibes, and on any given Sunday, just kind of rad people that kind of grew up in Southern California. That kind of has to go along with like vans and just stuff that really to this day is what makes California so sick. But Chris loves to shred. Chris, Jeremy, and I, we all kind of met similar time, and Chris shapes some of our shapes at Jones Snowboards, so this surf series. Pretty sick. But back to his question, I'd probably say Dirksen and Yoder. They got really good hand game. Dirksen kind of best probably frontside turn in snowboarding. And then Yoder, I think we call it like the rudder arm. So Yoder's got the rudder. It's kind of always up, So
which female has the best hand game, do you think?
Probably MFR. Yeah, Marie France Fry. She's got great game for sure. She's got, just good style. Yeah. I mean, that's Victoria probably as well. Yeah.
That's a good
I think
segue.
Victoria too.
Mike and I were talking too about the art of the turn.
Yeah, I would love to talk about the art of the
'Cause
turn.
that's something that's really fun and something that
Yeah.
you and obviously Andrew Miller and for a guy like me goes out. I try to go get a turn photo. Like it's a joke. Like it's just, the turn looks horrible. And I've been snowboarding my whole life. I still haven't figured out how to do it.
Yeah, I mean, what came up for me this year is Mike Boggs and I were talking about it. We were watching ourselves go down the mountain and do the 90-degree, spray yourself in the face
Yeah, the
in the
hockey
middle
style.
of a line, and you're blind. So take me through how you approach a pow turn on a line.
Yeah.
And, really, I think, tell me about that, maybe who your mentors were. I've been watching Tom Burt videos this year, a few people like that to kind of study how they do it.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah,
what's
I
your
mean,
game?
yeah, Mike, I think that's a great, point to bring up. It's like Tom Burt and dudes like Zellers. They originally, some of these old standard dudes riding these really consequential lines, and it's like you don't want to like throw up this crazy hockey stop or a giant like fan turn on this big mountain line, or you're going to blind yourself, and you're kind of fucked. You can't see where you're going for who knows how long, and then you're going to go the wrong way. It's not going to work out the way you want to. Maybe it could, but it's just kind of sketch. So it's like, might as well just do kind of like a couple setup turns or something that's a little bit more relaxed and not so serious. Whatever. I mean, the line's consequential, so it's serious, but it's like, just think about what the results could be if you do throw up something big. So it's like, do a little turn. Do another turn here. Maybe there's a spot where it's like a red island or something that's a wave feature. Great place to throw a big turn. So really think about the terrain and kind of study that and kind of think, 10 turns down. It's almost like you're riding a bike and, you see that curb cut like way up the street. Of course, you want to ollie that thing, but you're thinking about this little rock in front of you. You're on a skate. Like you don't want to hit that and just, kill yourself. So you want to get to that point and then past that.
Yeah. So you're thinking, how many turns are you thinking ahead on the line? I'm sure it depends on the line, but
Yeah, it depends on the line, but at least, 3 turns out for sure. Yeah. And that's something that I probably got from Jones and Zellers is, when you're riding something consequential or a bigger line, you're really going through kind of the, I've heard you talk about this too, about you're thinking about what's the worst case scenario. And it's a lot of times if you just keep focusing on the worst case scenario, it's going to happen.
Totally.
So it's like, you might as well, have, plan B, a plan C, set to where all of a sudden you're thinking plan Z just to have those options in your head. Riding the line and, that way it's going to work out for sure. There's always an option and there's always a place where you can pull out if shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
Now, I kind of want to dumb it down even more to the fact of like, talking about riding a big line, how do you approach it? But let's just, dumb it down to just a simple turn. Because I'm still trying to learn how to just do a good turn. Whether it's on groomers,
right,
hard pack, just coming in and that good body mechanics of a turn.
Yeah.
Do you pull the body mechanics and the approach from surfing? Like, do you have anything that you think about when you're like, I'm going to shred this turn?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's surfing related, and it's kind of like, you watch Jamie Lynn's style, you watch like Blair, like people that
mention a lot of goofy footers.
Yeah, there's a lot of goofy.
He's a goofy bias.
I don't think Hetz would like
dog.
this.
I know.
Hetz would not like this.
But let's go to Craig, and a lot of people reference Craig on the show, and you watch any of his segments, and it's just fluid in motion. The guy's a god, and you just see his turns and the way he snowboards, and it looks just so fluid. We talk about the path of least resistance and like being the ball, and it's like, obviously you have things in mind when you're riding a face, it's like we can break it down to like, you have an open palette here. You're an artist. It's like use that brush and, paint whatever you want, You can get as creative as you want on that thing, but it's like to do a turn, you really want to think about being able to not do that hockey stop, not have it, look like you're trying too hard. You want to make it flowy and you want to make it surfy. So you're trying to do something a little bit wider, open it up a little bit more, and really use the hands, as rudders essentially, kind of as you go into a turn and out of it. So it's like you have your hands in a place where you don't want them here, you want them here. You kind of just want them you know, in a spot that's kind of in the middle, you know, and kind of it's so funny how we're attached to our snowboards. You know, as snowboarders, it's like this thing is like a part of my body. It's like I'm strapped into this thing for life. So it's like, might as well use that whole body as the board and kind of be one with it and kind of use. It's interesting how when you kind of think about the mechanics of snowboarding, more so bringing it back to like doing a turn or using your edges, and it's like, you know, one part of your body leads to the next, and that's essentially down to your board. So it's like, might as well like use that to your advantage.
And I like that because you start with your vision and looking where you're going,
Right.
all the way down from, you know, your head to your arms, to your shoulders, to your hips, to your knees, to your ankles, to your, like I've never broken it down like that.
Right. And then
really
at some point it's like flow state for you. So you're just kind of doing that like automatically. You're not even really thinking about it. You're just kind of letting kind of the terrain at hand kind of, you know, translating into the way you're riding it.
Yeah. You have a deep surf history before, so maybe you had some pre-training to turning. I mean, I think it's got to be really related. But, you know, I'm 38 years deep, and I am still trying to I get it occasionally, and when you get it, it just feels, like you said, it's flow state.
Yeah.
But,
and now that we have these snowboards that are kind of more made, you know, essentially to kind of do turns, you know, with swallowtails. I mean, we're talking about boards that have been around, you know, since like Winter State came out, which were kind of boards that were made more for turning, not so much for airs. So it had a flex and it had a side cut that was kind of made specifically to surf the mountain. And, you know, Utah, the snow's so light here, so it's like the perfect place to like surf a mountain. So it totally makes sense that the dude was like making boards to surf the snow. But I mean, you know, and now, you know, you have friends like, you know, our buddies in Japan, like Gintam Stick and Taro Tamai, who essentially, mega air horn for Taro, because these guys have been kind of keeping that snow surf, you know, vibe alive, like probably for ever since the Winter Stick dudes have done it. And you really have to go over there and like follow one of those guys down the mountain. You know, there's like Orange Man who dresses all in orange, and all of a sudden the dude's like, he's going slow and he's turning, but all of a sudden you're like, dude, this guy looks like a freaking guru right now. Just ripping down the mountain, just like, you know, the Dalai Lama just looks rad, you know, even though he's going slow, and you're like, dude, I want to do that. You know, and then all of a sudden it just like throws your whole game off to where you were thinking about 720s, and now you're like, I just want to ride slow like the Orange Man dude.
Totally.
But Taro's kind of made it this rad, it just looked beautiful. You know, it's a way of snowboarding, and it kind of brings it back to kind of, you know, the staples of turning on a board, you know, and that really kind of helped me and a lot of my friends think about like, yeah, I still want to do tricks and I still want to do jumps, but how fun can turning be? You know, like that feels like insane. Like that's such a rad, fluid motion that just feels good. That why wouldn't you want to have that feeling? You know, it's like, yeah, again, it's like use the terrain, and if that looks like a good spot for a turn, that looks like a good spot for a method, throw it up, do it.
Yeah. I mean, you started talking earlier. You started out hitting the jumps, and you progressed your career into. I've still seen you do lots of tricks, but it feels like your progression has gone towards bigger mountains, turns, you know, those things. Do you? I mean, I've always been like a progression hunter. Are you viewing where you're headed as progression as far as your shredding, and what does it mean for you now? Because I'm sure back in the day it was like, you know, 540 to a 720 to a 900. What is progression in your world now?
You know, I think progression is, you know, such a rad thing that could be used in life, you know, to just keep you fired up to do things, you know, making art, you know, being creative at a brand, to like, how do you keep doing things, you know, how do you keep creating and like doing something as cool as you did before? You know, split boarding and turning has been a way for me, for kind of my own personal progression, to be like, wow, this is kind of where I want to be. And it's something that is a little bit more low impact on my body that allows me to kind of keep snowboarding every single day. And, you know, I love hiking up a mountain for sure, but goddamn, I love riding down it just as much, you know? So I think the turning and the split boarding has been just like such a beautiful transition for me to just be really enjoying snowboarding, you know, and you think about like, wow, dudes like Craig or Tom Burt or Hetz or people that like they've had these incredible careers in kind of the span of everything Temple, but they just have incredible turns and just the way that they ride a mountain and, you know, figure out like, wow, just looks good. And that's something that for me in my progression, I'm kind of continuing on that path of wanting to ride my snowboard in different ways and kind of this is how I see it now. And for splitboarding, it was like a time, you know, splitboarding's been around forever, you know, I mean, kind of, you know, found itself in the Wasatch with Brett Kobernick, who's a, you know, Utah Abbey Center homie now. Definitely got to have him on the show at some point. But yeah, these dudes were making like archaic split boards, you know, going to Home Depot and freaking in their garage making these things and going and hiking up Superior. Yeah. And it was something that you're like, damn, that looks really sick. I'm over here right now really enjoying it, but I could see myself doing that at some point. You know, and I think that's for a lot of us in our evolution as snowboarders. And maybe we get to that age where maybe you want to do something different. Maybe you're kind of stuck in a rut, but you're like, man, why don't I like expand my mind here and, you know, the evolution and just keep learning and doing stuff, you know? And it's something, you know, or if you're a parent, it's like your kids like growing up and it's like, Dad, I want to hit the park. And you're like, sick, let's hit the park for sure. But at some point that's like, you want to do stuff together as a family, you know, and being out in the mountains together with your friends and with, you know, people you love. That's what it's about. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the idea of progression. It doesn't have to go forward to more. It can be less and simplification. A lot of artists will do that. You hear, you know, the story of the artist drawing the perfect circle or one line, things that come up as you talk.
Yeah, less is more is freaking a great attitude to have. You know, that's another mantra for myself. And I have friends that fly fish or golf, you know. Golf's cool, and maybe I'll get into it one day. Probably not.
You're going to stay surfing.
You know, but fly fishing's that thing where you're like, oh, it looks sick. And I'm sure, I know I've tried it and I enjoy it for sure. But it's like the whole thing, the whole process of, you get into fly fishing and you're like, that's sick. And you're like, oh, I want to like learn how to tie the flies. And you're like, well, that's kind of rad too. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, I just want to check out the river. I don't even want to catch the fish anymore. You know, there's just something about that zen, you know, of like, dude, I just want to go hike on the split board and check trees out. And at the same time, I'm like looking at the Abbey conditions. So I'm kind of knowing exactly what's going on with the snow.
Yeah, I mean, I love looking in a mag and seeing one of your, the border doesn't even have to be there. It's just the line of what they did.
Yeah.
So
yeah, just the signature is sick, you know, and I think it just looks rad, you know, and it's rad that snowboarding's at that place right now where it's all encompassing, you know, it's like I respect the rail homies, I respect the dudes that are doing the jumps, and then the respect's mutual. It's really cool. So I think it's at that place where it's kind of at that age where everyone's just like doing rad stuff out there now, and it's definitely showing in the sport and in the industry that it's giving back and supporting those people.
All right, we're going to take a quick break and talk to you guys about Woodward, Park City, located only 15 minutes from Salt Lake City. We hosted Dogfight Rail Jam up there earlier this year. They're great for the snowboarding community. They do all kinds of fun events, and they got an incredible flowy park.
And what else do they have?
They got indoor. You know, they got the skateboard park where you can skate in the winter if it's cold, or you can skate in the AC in the summer when it's hot.
Okay. What else can you do there? I mean, it seems like I heard they're open all year.
They're open all year. You know what? If you want to, you could be good at parkour, Mike. You can go be a parkour guy.
No, I'd rather mountain bike. I don't think they have that, do they?
Oh, no, they do. They do have mountain biking, Mike. Yeah.
Jeez.
They also have a foam pit. Yeah. So if you are you good at back rodeo 900?
I've only done one backflip in my whole life. Can we go up and practice?
Well, you could learn a double backflip into that thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So, you know, Stony Bud's favorite activity, he rants and raves about the tubing. So tubing's fun in the winter. But
I'm wondering, I mean, usually I'm working late. Unfortunately, they're probably closed.
No, they got lights, Mike.
Wow.
They got lights, yeah.
Okay.
So a lot of times they're open until 7, snowboard, you know, after work. That's what I do. We're a couple keyboard cowboys out here. We got to get our fix. You know what we're going to do?
What?
Going to go to Woodward.
Okay.
Yep. So be sure to check out Woodward Park City if you are in the Utah area.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with Forrest Shearer right now on the bomb hole.
Yes, we are, Mike. We are back. So
Who do we have here today?
Yeah, we got Forrest Shearer. Also goes by Forry. But we were in the midst of a great conversation, and I'd like to pick up where we left off in the less is more realm.
Mm-hmm.
And even what you're saying too, I also think about like, as I've gotten older, you don't think like this. It's like more, bigger, bigger, bigger. You're just, we're full of piss and vinegar. You want to go huge and you want to do it all.
Yep.
But you get a little older and like things slow down. It's like a simple life is a good life. I don't follow that mantra, but in an ideal world,
I think I've watched you unstep.
I'm
quite a
working
bit.
towards it,
Yeah.
but I feel like you embody that nicely, Forrest.
Thanks, Chris.
And I'd like you to talk about that too.
For me, less is more is a mantra and it kind of brings it back to kind of where we are in life right now. It's like we're so bombarded with tech and so much like just shit's just getting stuffed down our throats of like information, product, just insane amount of, info out there. And info's rad and I love it. I love to read. I love to like learn about shit. But there's something to be said about like, I'm going to take a way back and go back to like previous civilizations and like, First Nations and Native American people that like less is more. It's like you can do a lot, but like learning from the land and, when you think about the internet, it's like this big thing, but actually the internet's been around for 100 years and it's been like right under our feet the whole time, It's like in the freaking earth. And it's like there's so much we can be learning about the trees, the planet, the weather. It's like the Aztecs had their calendar. It's like they were looking at the stars, People in Hawaii, there's this Hokulea boat, and it's basically a replica of like ancient Hawaiian sailing vessels. And the Hokulea, it's, they're using it today and kind of taking it around the world to kind of share, and so people can kind of learn about how people got around back then, Mm-hmm. And for them, it was like using the stars as navigation, and it's crazy to be like, oh yeah, we just sailed from Hawaii to Tahiti, like took us like 3 weeks and we made it. And it's like using the stars the whole time. There's this great explorer, a Norwegian guy, but he had this this book and film. It's called Kon-Tiki, and they basically sailed this like raft, and he had this like concept. This is like on some Darwin shit, but he had this like this hunch that pineapples that are like, oh yeah, pineapples are like tropical as it gets, but that came from like South America. And they're like, everybody's like, no, you're high. There's no way that pineapples came from South America. And so he was like, okay, I'm going to prove you guys wrong. I'm going to go full Nat Geo on you guys and go sail from South America to, Fiji, crazy islands in the South Pacific, so far. And he's like, okay, the whole thing is I'm just going to float by the current. And this was like a psycho mission that became famous because, essentially even his crew was like, dude, you're crazy, dude. There's no way I'm going to sit on this raft this whole time and just, let the current take us there. But he actually did it, and he proved that, pineapples came from South America. And it was insane that, like, all these places were trading goods, and, this was like a life of a very simple time that you can still do rad things, And for us, today it's like simple is kind of rad, It's like, why not, like, think about something before you buy it or, make a conversation more meaningful, I'm at a point in my life where I want to have, like, deep conversations. I really want to like get into the mud and just like talk about real shit. It's like I can talk about snowboarding all the time, and I love to talk about the best day ever. But for me, the best day ever doesn't have to be the raddest place. It could just be the crew that I'm with, and in that particular day, that's just like actually this was the most meaningful. It's like just watching the sunset or just like one turn, it's like hiking these mountains, splitboarding. It takes a while, you're putting that effort into it. Those pistons are moving, but it's like get up to the top and you might just get one run in Alaska. So you want to make that run mean it, you want to simplify it down and just be like, okay, this is now and I'm going to be in the now and I'm going to enjoy it, So I think, less is more is just a great great way of life, you know, and I think there's a way moving forward into our future on this planet that, you know, to think about a less is more mentality, and kind of, if you're buying less, if you're just being a little bit more conscious about how we're living and coexisting with the planet and with the other animals on it, it's like, why not take care of this place? It's the only one we got. There's only one Earth, you know? So
yeah, it sounds like less is more as the action, and appreciation is maybe, or gratitude's the underneath.
Yeah,
appreciating
everything
the
you were
experience.
talking about.
I think it is, you know, and I think there's a lot of friends out there that I really appreciate, people that use their hands and that are craftsmen, you know, and I think we're losing a lot of that right now. It's kind of the more tech is kind of getting in the mix, you know. There's like AI's, a lot of people are tripping on AI right now, and that's kind of like AI might take over people's jobs, you know. There's going to be like an AI Chris in here, and I'm going to be talking to AI, and I want that laugh. I want that realness, you know.
I think I love that topic, and even, you know, even in my own life, like we have a podcast, and I spend all this time on the computer, and used to, when we were just snowboarding, like, you know, do all my home improvement and welding and fabricating and building, and that's what I did with my, and now, like, when I get a chance to use my hands, it's like, it's almost like orgasmic. You're like, dude, I've needed to create or build, and I think what you said too, you know, with the way, you know, we're not necessarily part of the solution, being like a media company. We're on the interweb and in the computers, and the files are in the computer, in the words of Derek Zoolander, I believe. But you know, I think like emphasis on like trade schools being like just as prestigious as an academic school is something I think is really important too. It's like, you know, it's almost like the trades are looked down upon.
Totally.
And I think that, and now we're getting into the weeds, but it's just something I'm kind of passionate, because I've always respected people that build things with their hands.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we talk about a future of like, you can't have one without the other, and it's like, you know, we want to bring these traditional knowledges and wisdom with us moving forward, you know, because there's something to be said about, you know, if we're living in a desert, you know, there's people that lived here hundreds of years ago and they were able to survive. So it's like, why not like take a little tip from those guys moving forward? I don't know.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
And the less is more too, going back to just, I like what you're saying about appreciating the experience. Like you're saying, you know, the best day, I love that. I just want to highlight that. The best day isn't the day you maybe did the big trick. It's like the best day could just be what might be labeled as a mediocre day in terms of like how we kind of categorize things. But it's actually, you had the best experience. And I love that as you get older and things slow down and you appreciate the small things, like it's like splitboarding, for example. Like we're going up the skin track yesterday and we're talking, and it's like, doesn't even really matter where we're going. Like, it's like, we're just going up, and the chat is great. And you get back to the truck and we did some low angle wiggles, and like, you wouldn't categorize that as even anything phenomenal, but it was a great day.
Right? How sick can wiggles be?
They're awesome. And you feel amazing. And I like that, like, gauge it. Okay, I did this thing. How did it make me feel? Oh, okay. Like I went to the mall today and I shopped and I felt like I just didn't feel good, or so, whatever it is, you know, like, I'm not saying that, but it's like, you can just take these little data points and you're like, oh, splitboard. I waited in a chairlift line for 2 hours and I got 3 runs, and I was in a crowd of people. I didn't really like the way that made me feel. Oh, I went splitboarding, made me feel good. So I don't know, kind of just randomly spewing, but
yeah,
I like what you're saying.
What was Willie's kind of recent slogan? It was like, I came for the lift lines and stayed for the traffic, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I love that freaking, you know, we're all kind of thinking about doing different stuff, and just like how cool it is to like have a conversation with someone, and all of a sudden you're like, man, I want to try a little bit of that in my life. You know, I want to take some of that juju and some of that, you know, that elixir, you know, and add it to my routine, you know. I think that's something cool about the evolution of learning, you know, and wanting to, you know, continue that, you know. I think I heard Danny talk about it on his podcast, but it's, you know, why wouldn't you want to like keep learning and keep evolving, you know, as an athlete or as anything? It's like, we're human, and it's like, we have these brains, let's like use them, you know, and in a way of, Yeah, there's a rant again, but
That's what we're here for. Keep ranting.
We rant.
I'm captivated by the rants.
I
Keep
think
going.
what you're kind of touching on is it's if one you talked about earlier with your body, keep it moving.
Yeah.
It's the same with your brain and maybe relabeling what achievements are.
Exactly. It's like
Achievement could be a great conversation.
yeah, for sure. No, I think it's pretty rad to keep doing stuff, and whatever makes you happy, it's like do that. I mean, that's kind of end of the day. If you're not enjoying something, it's like you're just beating your head against the board.
Mm-hmm.
It's like evolve, and I think that's great for you as a human, your mental health, and also like people want to be around fun people, and I think that's something for me. When I'm in the mountains and when I'm doing stuff, I want to surround myself with people that I enjoy doing stuff with, And it's like, you don't want to be around like some dude that's like, oh, fuck, we got to go do this again.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I mean, I think, I'm sure, Chris, you're the same. Working with a team and a crew. I mean, I've actually watched you be a chameleon in many ways because you jump into my crew with a bunch of dudes jumping off a million jumps.
Yeah.
But how important is that team? I mean, you're going on these expeditions and all these other things.
Oh, it's huge, dude.
And who are your people? What who are the people you've learned from, or you really trust to be around, or what's important to you with a crew and a team?
Mean, for me, in kind of the the part of snowboarding that I'm in that I like to do, which is splitboarding. Hiking mountains and free riding, you're dealing with a little bit more consequence. You're dealing with the great white shark of the mountain, which is avalanches, and it's can be pretty serious at times. You watch Natty Select, and there's a lot of avalanche mitigation, and there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes before they're able to have the event. We touch a little bit about that sometimes. Baldface has that with like Scary Cherry. I mean, it's like crazy slope, and it's going to slide. I think they had like free ride world tour in at this face in Switzerland. It was supposed to go down, and there was a big slide on it, and they're actually like, "Oh, the tour's over, boys. Whoever won the last one's going to win." So it's pretty fucking serious, So I think it really boils down for me having a crew that has your back in those types of scenarios.
Well trained.
Well trained, and we have these avalanche transceivers. We have these things called Rico that are on our clothes. It's kind of mandatory for a lot of brands to have them on there, but those are essentially just to find like the dead body. You can't. That's kind of like a metal detector, And so your beacon, that's kind of what you use, and that's your lifeline to your buddy. So you might as well learn how to use that thing, because like obviously you want to find your friend, but it's reciprocal. That buddy better know how to find you when you're out there, So every year we're going through, avalanche safety, and we're doing refreshers every year, and that goes incredible that Pat Moore is doing the risk maturity stuff. That's kind of really helped with the snowmobilers and some of the jumpers, and everybody kind of get on that sense of wilderness first aid and having that kit on your sled and just having that mentality, and for us being in the backcountry, I mean, that goes down to like, dude, you could be like out there for a long time. So you better like have a kit to, sustain being out there, or like being able to, stay put until help comes. So I think for us, having a crew that you're comfortable being out there with, and then also with the filmers. I mean, I think a lot of people forget how gnarly the filmers are that we're with out there. Carrying huge ass bags. I respect all filmers, like in all kind of aspects, because it's just like they're, getting a sick shot, thinking about all that, and then they have to like have this heavy bag and get to these places as well. So on top of like what we're doing, we're just thinking about the landing, or oh, fucking snow sucks. But they're thinking about a whole different set of things. And for us, adding the whole splitboard equation into it, and as soon as you go on like expeditions and thinking about like Jimmy Chin stuff, it's like all of a sudden you're like, dude, it's a whole nother deal. And to find someone that is willing to do that, but then also has that skill level to do it, I could probably count them on one hand.
Yeah.
There's only a few guys out there, but it's incredible, and we create these bonds and these lifelong relationships with these people that trust element there. And, and you add in risk, it's crazy. So you better have your buddies back. But that's something that I really want to, bring people in. It's like, I love getting people into what I like to do and, bringing in bringing people into, doing these things and being mentors,
Yeah.
And I think if you see someone and they're like, whoa, that's kind of rad, let's like bring that person up and like provide that space and provide that place for them to, morph into another rider and just keep that evolution going of what they want to learn and be a part of,
Yeah.
and be that ATV of snowboarding,
Yeah. I mean, someone mentored you. I think it's always nice to reach the hand back. I'm sure. Who were your
Completely.
main mentors? Like, in the beginning when you made that transition to.
Yeah, when I made that transition into splitboarding, Jeremy Jones was a big one for sure, big mountain. A lot of us got into splitboarding all at the same time. There was a dude, I think I got introduced through Pat Bridges, and it was a time at Snowboarder, legends of the sport. And Snowboarder was at a time where it was a little bit more all-encompassing than Transworld, let's say, in terms of like, someone's doing something rad, let's support that. And this guy came to the table, his name was Chris Edmonds, had this idea for this film project called My Own 2 Feet. And I think a lot of us got on board because it was pretty lax. And he was like, yeah, if you want to splitboard, if you want to snowshoe, if you want to walk out there, who cares? As long as we're doing it under our own means and under the power of My Own 2 Feet. And it was a rad project. We did it in the whole Sierras, all the way from Tahoe, all the way down to Mount Whitney. And for myself, Dirksen, Jones, I think we'd all splitboarded a little bit prior to that, but that was kind of the aha moment for us to be like, wow, this is actually like opening up this other box of like, I've always looked at that stuff or thought about getting to that peak across the street from my resort, looking at that horizon line and seeing something rad out there and be like, let's go do that someday. But you're like, no, not. How do we get there?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden the splitboard was that means to access these places. And all of a sudden you're just like, whoa, dude. There's this whole other area where, maybe it's or wilderness boundary, or you can't get there with a sled or with a heli. And all of a sudden you're like, dude, we can go camp out there. We can actually have like a real fucking adventure and actually like get into some gnar. And all of a sudden you're like, dude, all of a sudden I'm like into mountaineers and I'm like inspired by Conrad and Jimmy and like, Yvonne Chenard, people that like, Yosemite and places that you're just like, whoa, dude, these are like insane spots and people have been doing this stuff while we've been snowboarding this whole time. And you're like, that's rad. Even in Utah, it's like, I would go skate in the summer here. I would hang and party and just kind of cruise. And all of a sudden there's like, dude, we can go to southern Utah. We can go like climb rocks. And actually there's insane, it's like the most beautiful state ever. And it has that so much diversity in a sense where you can do all these things, which is rad. Yeah. So I think splitboarding really, opened up that door for a lot of us and, led to some incredible opportunities with, blending in outdoor and action sports.
Now, I was curious when you started splitboarding.
Yeah.
It was like there really wasn't that many people doing it. It was pretty rare. And it's obviously in the past 5 years just exploded, I feel like. Especially up, Little Cottonwood Canyon, trailheads that might have one car are like lined up down the road, How have you seen it change with the explosion of popularity of people kind of human-powered access to the mountains? Good thing, bad thing? What do you feel about it?
I think it's a blessing and a curse on one side where, the ones promoting that industry kind of at the very top of it and something that was kind of like people did it before and it was under the radar, but all of a sudden we're releasing these kind of splitboard films and Deeper Further Higher came out, which I was a part of. And all of a sudden it's like these little ambers of this fire. All of a sudden it was like pouring lighter fluid on it. All of a sudden I was like, holy shit, dude, this is actually really popular. And, you know, in the whole grand scheme of things, it's like brands don't sell a ton of split boards every year, but it's still pretty popular. And it's a thing that actually you're like, wow, I don't need to go buy a ski pass over here. I can maybe invest in this split board setup, learn about the mountains, and, you know, all of a sudden I got power runs all day over here.
Yeah, and a lot of people you see are getting out of their car at 5 and they're at work at 8:30.
Exactly.
They can not, the lift hasn't even opened yet.
It's pretty rad, yeah. So again, you're not having to deal with all kind of the rules and regulations. You're kind of doing all that stuff yourself.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of and I think with kind of COVID and where we are with, you know, people working remotely, all of a sudden they're like, wow, dude, backcountry is like my jam. And now I'm like, you know, it's kind of in a sense, it's kind of tricky because there's a lot of people that are just like, damn, I just need the gear and I can get out there. But then also you can get yourself into a lot of trouble quickly if you don't know, you know, about a place and not putting that time and research in, and you don't have the partners to go with, you know. So it's something that's a little bit more serious. Ski resorts, it's all kind of mitigated from Ski Patrol and the avalanche safety. So it's something that, you know, we don't give those guys enough credit. I know a lot of us are just like, oh, the gate drops and, you know, let's go get
We're
it.
out there.
Should we give the avalanche centers and
Yes.
Yeah.
all the avalanche control people just a super air horn because it's unbelievable. what they do.
Hell yeah. UAC, the Utah Avalanche Center, is like one of the best in the world. And the guys, Bruce Tremper, he's got a great book out on avalanches. Legend, but there's been incredible people, and it's at that stage right now where we have all that information at our fingertips. Pretty freaking rad. And, you know, use that. Learn the knowledge, take an Avi course. It's
Pretty much available everywhere.
They're available everywhere, you know, and you go around to other places in the world and you're doing all that stuff yourself. So it's a great way to get familiar with a place, you know, learn about it, do the knowledge, do your homework. But then also it's like, if you're in a new place, like go meet up with some locals. I mean, that's guides are, you know, they have that job for a reason, you know, it's to keep people safe and to give people a good day. But with us and with snowboarding, we're like, you know, we're the best people to adapt. You know, snowboarders are like, you know, just like skaters, I feel like we adapt so quick to like the terrain at hand and to like, oh, this looks like something where I could do this here. This looks like something over here where I can go this way. And I think that's, you know, something to be said about our community. It's like we're easily adaptable and I'd say a little bit more approachable maybe than other sports. And so it's a way of like, you go to a place and you're like, this dude looks cool. What's he all about? Where's the sick line here?
Yeah.
Let's tap in and ride with this dude today.
Yeah, I always was terrified going to new zones. Like if I'm riding at Brighton or around that area, you know, there's always a risk, but I've also watched it for 30 years. But when you roll up, even Tahoe, or I always want to be with a local.
Yeah.
Anywhere else other than home.
Exactly. You know, and I think people pick spots, Tahoe, for instance, wetter snow, a little bit heavier, but then the Avi rating tends to mellow out quicker over there.
Yep.
You know? So it's a little locks up quick, and then you kind of get these spines.
Yeah.
And then for out here, it's a little lighter snow, which we love. Epic landings, sick lines, but a little gnarlier.
Even the Uinta snowpack changes as you go towards Wyoming, and
Completely.
they're all totally different. Colorado. I was kind of thinking about too, as you're talking, like I've been thinking about this year. We've been having all this snow, and the ski patrollers that, you know, open this, like these, you know, potentially high risk areas that mitigate zones for us to ride on in bounds or out of bounds or whatever. And they're like, you know, gate, the rope drops, and they're like, okay, it's all good. But what a gnarly job is that? Like, what if you didn't do your control work right and something rips out and a bunch of people die? Like, you know, I don't think we give a lot of those guys enough credit. I just kind of went running it, not to reiterate, but
Dude, it's crazy. In my home mountain in Mammoth now, they're just getting so much snow, just getting pummeled all season long of like, you know, a lot of times you'll get like 2 feet of snow and you're like, okay, sick. It's enough where I can mitigate the danger, And all of a sudden you're getting like 20, 30 feet of snow at once. And then you got to open the resort, you know, and have it be safe for people to ski. And it's like that much more work and that much more, you know, pressure and like on your shoulders of like, okay, we got to make sure it's safe for everybody. And it's like giving those guys a break to, you know, definitely, they're putting their time in. So next time you see a patroller or a lifty, give him that donut, you know, hook a buddy up.
Thank you, for sure.
Give him a bag of granola, some patchouli oil, maybe some matcha tea.
Right?
Yeah. Or maybe a howitzer.
Exactly.
Maybe an ice axe. Give him an ice
Right?
axe. Give him a bag of ropes and some carabiners and shit and some chalk.
And a couple extra sticks of dynamite at the house.
Yeah, you get some dynamites too. Yeah. All right, let's stay crunchy here. Let's stay on the crunchy topic. Speaking of which, just learned something new, Mike.
What's that?
Forrest. Sorry, I just called you Griff. Let's give Griff an air horn.
Hey, Griff. We love you, bud.
Your new nickname's Griff.
Yeah, he's one of those dudes that you're like, oh yeah, you want to get into splitting? Let's
You
go all in, buddy. Now he's kind of the, you know, we've always called him King of the Satch, but now he's kind of got a new, you know, we're kind of going Game of Thrones. I don't know, Parker's kind of got some split.
He's
in him,
getting
too.
there. He's
Yeah.
getting there. I
Yeah.
would say that you might have 6 nicknames now, though.
Yeah,
You're now Griff at the bomb hole.
And Griff taught us, aka Forrest, that you eat the entire apple, including the core. Just did that for my first time ever. So
Yeah, we were just hanging in Japan, myself and Andrew Miller and Arata, a good homie, in this apple town, just hitting up all the sush and samurai zones. And he's like, yeah, please have apple. And it's cut long ways. For the viewers who can't see, we just chopped this apple up.
Show him that last piece.
I
Let's give him
did,
a
but
visual.
it's chip. So kind of some natty, just really crunchy food here. And when we're out in the backcountry, we do like the Clif Bars, but we also like the real food. So
we got a great. This is a great segue into before we go back to other stuff. This is not really crunchy, but guest question from Nils. Here we go.
Howdy, Bombhole. Nils here. Okay, guys, I have a little bit of a math problem I would love you to solve for me, which is, Forrest, how many Clif Bars do you think you've eaten in your entire life? Kind of curious. Maybe you could split it up with like X amount per week, X amount of weeks in that season. You know, go from there. Can't wait to hear it. Hope you guys are having fun. See ya.
Oh, Nils, love you, bud. Another
Classic engineer question.
fellow splitter, mathematician, wizard on the board, all around. Love that dude. But yeah, Clif Bars. One of my first sponsor. I love them. Rad brand. Elena rides for him. Ben Chetler, Kimmy, a lot of the homies. But yeah, they make good product. And yeah, it's something that you could eat. So probably thousands of Clif Bars have gone down.
Let's do
Let's
the math. I got my calculator.
So how many
here.
years?
Right,
When did
right.
you get sponsored?
So we're probably like, we're talking like 2008.
So we're talking 25? No, 18,
Let me see. 22 minus
16
8.
years. No, 15 years.
Is that right? 8.
15 years.
14.
Yeah.
14.
Let's call it 15 years.
Call it
We'll round up.
15.
15 years.
15 years.
So how many bars a week?
So bars a week. We'll probably go.
You can even do a day if you need to.
So let me kind of just reframe. Like, we do these expeditions, and when we're going on that expedition, we're getting a freaking duffel full of Cliffy products. So, you know, it's like Travis, he's like, we're going there. And we're getting all these Clif Bars, and then we're going there.
Yeah.
You know?
We need a whole bunch of fuel, and we're going to go there. You're like, we need a whole bunch of Clif Bars. Nice.
So yeah, so kind of we save ourselves, you know, throughout the season to kind of like sprinkle a little bit here, sprinkle a little bit there. Because when we're on, we're going full, you know, up to 20 chow. We want all the Clif. We want that stuff where you just freaking, you know, on the go fuel.
Yeah.
Get what's
So-
the hammer, Cliff.
Yeah, so probably like 3 a week when I'm not on, you know.
So we'll say 12 a month on
Yeah.
a normal schedule.
Yeah. I'd say something like that. Yeah, it's a lot of us, you know, it's like I see Dirksen, he's like, oh, dude, Mountain House for dinner? Wife's not home. I'm gonna eat that. Make it easy. So yeah, there's a lot of times where, you know, I'm big on breakfast. I kind of try to eat an early dinner, but I'm kind of like a snacker throughout the whole day. So there's a lot of times where I'm hitting Clif Bars for sure. So we'll go to like 3 to 5 a week. And then we want to go Clif products or just a Clif bar?
I think the question specifically was Clif Bars.
Yeah.
And you eat them year round. I mean, this is 3 a week.
Yeah.
Through summer too.
Yeah.
Good surf snack.
Totally.
Good hiking snack.
Yeah. So we'll go 3 a week. Let's go like
3
that.
a week times
So
52.
we're looking at 240 a month.
For 3 a week?
Yeah. Or no, did I do my math
No,
wrong?
no.
So no, you said 3 to 5 a week. So 5. Let's just round up to 5 a week.
All right.
So then times 4, right? So I guess you could do times 52. That would give you 5 a week times 52. It's 260. So that's 260 a year for, what do we say, 20 years? Or what do we say, 12?
15 years.
14 years.
15 years.
All right, 15 years. So
260
you're looking
times
at 3,900 Clif Bars just without the bulk order.
Right.
Now let's throw in the expeditions. We're throwing Denali. What are we talking? Give me and how many? We got a handful of those.
Well, the thing, so, Clif Bars are rad because they make all of these other products. They got like gels, they got blocks. A lot of the boys are just crushing blocks all day because it's like a little Jolly Rancher, So diversity is the spice of life, Mike. So it's like you don't want to get totally burnt
black
out.
Bars.
Yeah, we want gels. We're trying to go fast and light.
Do they have an IV? Because I don't really want to open my bag.
We'll just go straight espresso gel IV
Back
We got a
in
powder.
out of the Camelback for Mike.
Powder they can snort.
There's a snortable, I think. Yeah.
You gotta
Only
ingest
available.
multiple. You gotta ingest multiple.
In other countries.
Yeah, we're gonna go that microdose of that clip gel. No, the little block,
Keister it.
and we're
You
just
just
gonna
keister it.
put it under your tongue, and you're just gonna have it all
Do
day.
they have
Suck
any
on it.
suppositories?
Yeah, suppository.
Dude, for sure they must. Yeah.
So I'd say easy 5,000. Let's just do
5,000
5,000
Clifs.
Clif Bar products in a
Lifetime.
lifetime.
What's your-
That's maybe on the conservative
I
side.
think my question is, bars probably more than anything else.
Right.
What's your favorite flavor?
Bars. We're gonna go pretty standard, boys. We're gonna go like oatmeal raisin, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
to know.
Yeah, I think like there's like a peanut butter one that's good,
Ooh.
really good.
Yeah, I like that
Yeah,
one.
I like the peanut butter. I'm more of like an almond butter guy.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Clif has done rad products, but sometimes we get rid of some. So we're gonna go oatmeal raisin. That's a staple.
Like it.
All right, I'm going back to deep. Are we good on the Clif Bars,
back to
Mike?
deep.
You got any other things you need to add about that? Because I'm about to move on.
No, I'm good.
Okay, good. All right. So thinking about this, I'm excited to ask you this. So we go on. I do generally little short tours. Go maybe for an afternoon. Boom. Go out, come back, whack a couple turns. So the split board in the back of the truck feel great. I've never done a big expedition, multi-day camping. But even on these short little tours, I feel connected to nature, like in a way that's unbelievable. You're staring at the birds, eating out of the tree, you're just like you're picking up on little details. And that's on maybe like a 2-hour tour. I'm feeling like I'm connected. How connected do you feel when you're out there and there's no one else around and you've been in deep nature for a long time?
You're at that point. You're full Nat Geo.
You're Nat Geo.
You're straight in it.
You
know,
are
you're-
nature.
Yeah, you're starting to write a journal. You're like starting to log what's going on during the day. What like Ryland's doing over here in the tent. What people are, curb your enthusiasm over here. I got a surf mag over here. What are we eating for lunch? What's for dinner? But you're so tuned in that it's that's the daily life. That's the simplicity of it. Is you're kind of tuning back in to slowing it down, and essentially it's like that's like on some back to the basics. It's like, what are these bare things that we do every day? And it's like, if you can keep doing those things, it's like too much info is kind of crazy, we evolve and we adapt, Elon Musk and like a lot of tech homies that are like, oh, I only get, 5 hours of sleep every night. And somehow they operate, that's their vibe. But it's cool to just be whatever. You can get your sleep. You have your routine during your day, and it's like that's what it is in life. That's the stuff that's that good shit that we thrive off of. Like, okay, I have this objective that I'm doing. I'm going after this run, going up this mountain to get that sunset line, going back, making making a good dinner and going to bed and doing the same thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm really into that circadian rhythm of like you kind of get up when the sun gets up,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And it's a lot of times you're like, have something in your head. And you can kind of be like, oh, I got this to do tomorrow. And it's funny how you kind of like wake up during that time, you know, right before.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, oh, it's like clockwork. And it's like, damn, that's kind of crazy that your brain and your body works like that. And I kind of feel like we get that way once you kind of turn off kind of those dailies and kind of get back into these like super natty, crunchy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's I love this stuff because I think we're actually cannibalizing our own senses in ways. Like
Right.
if you think about the other day, it was moist in the air, and I'm like, oh, I haven't checked the weather, but I'm like, damn, it seems like it's gonna snow. Like you can feel that in the air, and you're
Right.
like, you know that it's gonna snow. You know, but like now it's like, oh, you sit inside and you're like, oh, it's gonna snow tomorrow. I like noticed the app told me that, you know, and I love the fact of what you're describing of connecting deeper to your senses.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a big thing for me. And I think a big direction that if we kind of lose that connection to nature, then, you know, I think that really boils it down to like the root of wanting to protect these places is like you go into this spot and you have this incredible time, and then all of a sudden you're like, wow, this place is really cool, and I'm having much more of a connection with this place that, dude, I think I'm going to protect this place. You know, this is kind of a rad spot. It'd be so cool to like have kids go up here and like different generations. And then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, dude, I'm not the first person to be up here. There's like animals that have been up here and like, you know, civilizations way before us that had that connection to these spots that, you know, you're like, damn, dude, am I one of those people? Am I on some different stuff? Tapping into like that really cool knowledge and juju that's kind of just happening naturally, you know. And I was recently like up on this trip, just kind of like up in the Sierras, with my buddies on snowshoes, and we were hiking and the weather was crazy. It was snowing, but like crazy snow where it's like 100-mile-per-hour winds, and you're like, dude, we got to batten down the hatches. We got to freaking dig a hole right here, put a tent up. You know, you barely have enough energy to make the food and, you know, boil some water, get to bed, and so you don't freeze your ass off. But I was up there and I was like thinking about like these trees in this certain spot. I mean, these are trees that were like, you know, 400 to 1,000-year-old trees, you know, and it's thinking about, this is like getting really crunchy here, but
I love it.
It's talking about how, you know, we have these pioneers and like people that freaking, you know, cross the U.S. You know, it's like, oh, we're making it out to the West, you know, the Oregon Trail, the freaking Donner Party. I mean, those guys ate each other, so we're not gonna get into those guys. But the trees are like the original pioneers, dude. And even though they're stationary, they've kind of seen it all. You know, so if you're a tree up on Superior or somewhere and you're like, damn, dude, another guy is going to go and ride this line. He's like, I'm just sitting here the whole time watching it. So I'm kind of that original, you know, wise elder, which I think is really cool because as we kind of, you know, weather's changing all the time and shit's getting crazy out there, and these rocks and trees that have just been there, you know, they're not talking about they've seen some shit, right?
That's so cool. I never thought about that. They're not talking about they're communicating and
Yeah.
in other ways. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Never thought about that. Yeah, they've seen 40 people drop in on that for the past 300 years. We're the first ones here. They're like, no, you're not, you dumbass.
The other one's like, that guy Steve's was kind of wild.
Right.
The other reason, no, dude, his method was same.
Right, he's like, give me some love over here, just like freaking scratch my back.
No doubt. And then
You know?
and then the next guy like comes
little
through
jib.
and like tries to ride off him and cuts his branch off.
Right,
It's
yeah,
like,
you don't. Yeah, you don't want to show.
No
you want to show him
respect.
some love, but
show him some love.
yeah, respect for sure.
Yeah, I back that.
Yeah.
I'll get crunchy all day.
Getting submersed in your environment, which is good. A good thing about split like snowmobiling, you're like flying, and you don't.
Right.
You're just like everything's just going by. And you could be going by the most beautiful thing in the world, but you're like, my destination is 10 miles this way, and I'm like hauling ass, and it's really fun.
Right.
But like it's like the less is more is like that little wiggle or that little for me, I call it life of glide for us.
Life of glide.
You know what
dude,
they
I love
say?
it.
Be bold, start cold in the morning. I was telling you that yesterday.
Be bold, start cold.
You
You
don't
freeze,
want-
you die.
You freeze, you die. You want a lot of cotton products, dude. That's what we use.
Just be really comfortable out there, right?
So, all right, I'm going to get into a bit of a hot, touchy subject, but we're talking about connecting with nature. A thing that grows in nature is maybe like a mushroom. Is a nature product.
Yeah,
it's a product that nature sells. Psychedelics and microdosing and any of that stuff. What's your take on that?
My take on that is, I'm pretty open to it. I was looking up a definition. I think it's called like a psychonaut, which is kind of a sick name. And I think it's kind of like the study of psychedelics, which I thought was kind of a cool term. I was down with that. But, that stuff's been around forever. It's like, tribes have been doing it forever, and we're doing it now. There's dudes in Silicon Valley that are like on some whole microdose freaking path, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, dude, I'm going to invent this insane company, and I'm going to make millions off it. So there's something to be said about like what using that to kind of access that creativity and kind of using, a natural substance to kind of, get that brain flowing and get the kind of, that creativity and kind of get those senses, kicking, getting those pistons going.
Yeah.
Chris would say. But I think I'm really at that point where I feel it's kind of a sacred thing, and we've all gone through periods in life where we party and we have fun, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's rad, but I think it's also really cool to think about something as sacred and think about this thing's here for a reason. And there's a lot of people that have used this, as a ceremonial thing, that I think it's kind of important to respect that and think, outside of the box of like, whoa, there's this jaguar in the jungle. Rad, it's freaking incredible, dude. Wildlife. But what if like actual like that camouflage on the jaguar, if you could kind of like get really out there and be like, whoa, that's actually like a map, or like using that like, that's a print, for some of us, but it's also like maybe a path to like, who knows? It's like Carlos Castaneda is a great author who kind of gets into kind of psychedelics and kind of using it as a path and kind of a knowledge builder. But there's a lot there that if you kind of use it in the right way, that you can kind of access some really interesting stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I've always seen it as something that drops boundaries and walls.
Yeah.
I use it occasionally as something, also like you're talking about, as it's sacred.
Yeah.
Find a party with it, but I feel like what it does is drop, ideas and walls that might, if you do drop those, obviously you're going to end up being more open.
Right.
So have you ever gone out in the backcountry or, done it snowboarding? Chris, both of you. I mean, is it sort of a...
Yeah, for sure. I think it's, I don't really listen to music like when I'm snowboarding. I like to hear, what's around me.
Yeah.
But definitely have before, and it's freaking have a great time doing it. I would kind of prefer... I'm very much a person that likes experiences, and that's kind of probably why I kind of trend towards expeditions and fun missions, because I kind of want to be a part of something bigger and being in it. And, that's a great gateway to something bigger, and it's definitely, however you use that and whoever it's, helping expand your consciousness, then, that's good shit.
Yeah, I think it's definitely an interesting topic, and being very conscious of why you might ingest something, right? So like when I was in high school, we'd get an eighth of mushrooms, a big old bag, and then like we gobble down the whole thing and drink like 12 beers and just be train wrecks. And you're like, and it's like, that's maybe not like, that's definitely like one way to do it, and if that's what you're into, all good. But I don't know that you're getting like, you're not like, I don't know if you're getting the same experience as like maybe eating a little bit of mushrooms going, like for me, I'm sober, right? I don't drink I consider myself sober. I don't smoke weed. I don't drink. I don't do any narcotics. And mushrooms are something that in my journey, I found that like if I eat a little bit and I go split boarding and I'm in nature, it helps me connect to nature. So I've heard it described as God's attempt to connect man to nature.
Right.
And the things that I notice are like, oh wow, the trees, the leaves are fluttering over there. Like those are really cool looking leaves. The olive on one side and the kind of like birch white on the other. And I'm just kind of like, I feel just a little bit more connected to like this deeper consciousness that you can tap into without easily.
Sure.
For sure.
But it's a bit of it seems like a bit of a conduit for that type of stuff.
Yeah, there's something there's a macro and there's a micro. And macro is like when you're a kid and you're like, oh my God, this is so much fun. I'm going to be puking everywhere on anything. And you're like, that was not fun.
For sure.
Yeah.
But if you're on the micro, it's like, actually, I'm looking at it from like a scientific perspective. And it's like, I can work my way up to something, and in life, working your way up to having the courage to do something. It's like so rad, and micro in a sense of kind of the topic of we're on, there's something to be said about taking a micro and actually having it enhance a conversation or be something like, actually, this is like something I could have at like a dinner party and just be totally like not feel anything, but all of a sudden my conversation is enhanced and all of a sudden it's just brought up incredible topics and incredible conversation that maybe I wouldn't be having.
Yeah.
For someone that doesn't have that, And I think it's also such a great, for mental health in a way to kind of get through things. And life's crazy, we all have good experiences, bad experiences. And Paul Stammen's kind of the mushroom kind of guy. I think he had something that he had like a crazy stutter when he was a kid. Yeah, there's that crazy mushroom movie that's out on Netflix. It's a great flick.
I haven't seen it. It sounds good.
Yeah, but I think he had some crazy stutter and couldn't talk. And soon as he kind of started working through some stuff on kind of these substances, kind of got rid of that stutter and totally, relates to that as being what helped him through that, which is pretty sick.
Yeah, I can think it can drop fear, like you're saying, having a wide open conversation, or maybe his speech was
exactly
a fear thing.
Yeah, there's actually like a really good, it's like a microbial Paul Stammen's like spray I use for like so I don't get sick. I just kind of like take this little spritz every morning. It does nothing to me. It's mainly to boost your immune system.
Yeah.
But I think, mushrooms or, LSD or all these kind of things, they're pretty incredible. And we've been doing a lot of research on them, but I'd say probably the wrong research. And I think at this point, we're kind of opening up to having a lot more of these conversations about these things and actually seeing them as being a sacred thing and actually using them, in the right way, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little more intention to doing it rather than just chucking down the eighth.
Yeah.
Down the throat.
Intention's so important in life, I feel, I think it's such a good thing to have.
Yeah.
Good check-in. Why am I using this? Am I using this to escape my body?
Right.
Because I'm uncomfortable in my own skin?
Right.
Or am I using this to connect with other people or nature? Those are good questions to ask, definitely. I'd like to go another layer deeper. I've never done this, but heard it's helped many people, and I've heard that you have had an ayahuasca journey. If you want to share, feel free. If not, all good.
Sure. Yeah, pretty funny.
I'm always curious about it.
Yeah, I think it's good. It's definitely, I obviously just chuckle, but it's nothing to be taken lightly. This is heavy stuff and something that, I looked at it when I did it as kind of an opportunity to, grow with a partner and also kind of be able to have a reset and be able to kind of, we get so busy in our work life, with families and everything. And it's like so important, whatever you're doing, to, take that time to check back in with yourself, and I think that the ayahuasca specifically is a definitely, I think I did a ceremony once, so it was definitely something that I was interested in, and I'll probably do it again at some point in my life. The specific one, I'll talk about it because it was funny and interesting. But it was here in Salt Lake, and it was like at this spot where everyone goes, and we do film premieres now. And I was like, whoa, that is freaking crazy, dude. That I had an ayahuasca ceremony in the same building. But it was, it was at a time, and I was like, oh, okay. I guess it's, I was expecting to like go out to some like yurt in the middle of nowhere and, have eagles flying around me and just have this incredible, experience. But it was like in this local spot in town, and I was like, whoa, this is crazy. And surrounded by like 40 other people doing this thing. It was a little emotional. It was, with that in particular, you like purge and you like go through shit, so you throw up, and it's could be gnarly, but it was interesting for sure, and something that, maybe I would work my way up to like a multi-day thing, but probably would just do it, just once again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's, Mike could probably speak to it, or Chris, it's something interesting, and it's something that is rad, I think, and something that as, humans and our kind of what we're brought up to think about in terms of like pharmaceuticals and medical, it's kind of fucked up that the stuff that they, are subscribe to us, that it's like, you got to go down this full pharmaceutical route when there's actually this natural kind of version or this homeopathic route that you could take, but that's kind of on your own. So it's kind of, so.
Yeah, or potential 10 years of therapy done in 2 nights.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Right.
I love that too. Just, do you think about humans been on this planet? We've been here for a minute. We've been around. And you have like stoic philosophy where people, we've been struggling with the same shit for however many 100 years.
Since the beginning of time.
It's the beginning of time, and like you're like, oh, damn, okay, like this is nothing new, but you're like, it's so profound, and it's hundreds of years old. And same with like some of the medicines I'd put in that same category. You're like, oh, we need this new pill that Pfizer came up with, or whatever fucking pharmaceutical company. It's like, yeah, but these dudes in the jungle like had some shit figured out like hundreds of years ago.
I think it's the opposite approach. I mean, I'm going to generalize. I think most pharmaceuticals block things, and these things open things. So, I don't know. That's my shitty.
Elaborate.
Like a painkiller versus feeling the pain and using something like that might heal it, like an arnica CBD peppermint mixture to bring the blood to the location, or a pill that, this kid's the crazy kid on the block. Let's give him some drugs to mellow him out rather than getting him into skateboarding to use his energy, or XXX, like countless things we could bring up. But I think a lot of pharmaceuticals block, and a lot of
prescribe
psychedelics and activities.
Yeah,
open.
like completely. And you're like, yeah, I've been taking this thing for, since I was a teenager. And you're like, whoa, dude.
Yep.
Maybe that's working for that person, and I totally back that. But then also the power and the beauty of like getting outside on a skateboard and going and biking and just having that connection to actually like, wow, this is a really special thing, and I think that's so empowering and something that I'm very much into climate work and about the environment, but I feel like in order for someone to get there, we really have to get them into nature first. I think we really have to introduce them to these places and really let them experience. It's like some of us, like our uncle or our grandpa, like took us camping and took us fishing, and we have that connection. But a lot of parents are so busy and doing other things, and we all got issues. And I think kids are just like they need that. There's a book. I think it's Last Child in Nature. But it's like something that, I think that's another, like, such an opportunity for, people to get in there and reconnect to these natural places.
Yeah.
We got a guest question. Actually, it's not a guest question. It's a Patreon question from Cole Barish. He's a photographer. Maybe you've heard of him.
Cole.
Colbert.
Oh,
He's
okay,
from
yeah.
Massachusetts,
I think-
actually the greatest state in the entire country. So
Yeah, cool.
but thank you to our Patreon members that support us. We really appreciate you guys. So kind of a long-winded question from Cole, but it's a great one. I feel as though you're generally perceived as not just a snowboarder, but even more so an advocate for the environment. I was curious on what your approach is with each project you do. In what ways do you incorporate the environment? Are you hoping to create just awareness, or if not, what else? What one trip or project do you feel like was particularly successful in that realm, and why?
I have to think about the when and why a little bit. Thanks, Cole, for the question. It's a rad one. I'll just kind of just approach it with, we get into, I'm just going to kind of speak for kind of surfing and snowboarding that are pretty deeply connected to, an environment, and it's very immersive. That I feel where I'm at with snowboarding, I feel it's this this connector, and it's this thing that I could be doing to eventually maybe get to something even bigger. I feel like there's something else out there for me that I think is the environment, and it's protecting these places. And I think snowboarding is such a perfect gateway and opportunity to, be doing this with someone, with my friends, or with someone that I just met, and actually be able to kind of open up to kind of deeper and heavier topics, and actually, have something in common, having that common ground with snowboarding that's actually like, whoa, dude, we both love to shred. That's like, let's talk about some other stuff too, that can like lead to actually, you never know who you're going to have conversations with. It could be like, a senator in DC. It could be someone from like a CEO of a company that all of a sudden you're like having this incredible conversation with, or become friends with this person and keep in touch with that person that could lead to like actual, systemic change or real shit happening, So I feel like snowboarding is that thing for me that's allowing me to get to something bigger. And that's the environment for me. And I think as we're moving forward right now, the urgency of that couldn't be more, more prominent. We need it so much. There was like a recent IPCC report. There's been so many coming out the last couple of years, and the last one was like a week ago, basically saying we're fucked, and basically saying that if we want to be doing something, it's kind of up to us, So it's going to take all of us kind of working together to get there. So it's like we can easily keep digging our own hole, and from the pessimist point of view that we're all screwed, and it's kind of like that's kind of how it goes. But from an optimist point of view, I think we can all be doing whatever we can be doing with under our own means, and doing like whatever the tools and resources that we have. Do what you can.
Yeah, what does do what you can look like?
I think do what you can looks like, I think, for everyone that's different. I think it could be, signing petitions. It could be going to a meeting. Could be like volunteer time. We have so many incredible grassroots nonprofits kind of in every town we live in. It's got to tap into that, see what's going on. Surf Rider, Protect Our Winners. Here in Utah, Heal Utah, they've kind of done a lot of work around. There was a bunch of like radioactive waste in like West Desert, and a lot of us don't know about that, but it was like some old school shit, and we're still getting like waves of that stuff that come out towards Salt Lake, which is pretty messed up. But and then it's like there's a lot of nonprofits that are bare bones crew, and they're pretty strapped for cash. So it's like if you have a skill, if you're a graphic designer, if you're a photographer, if you're data analysis, dude, like give those guys a shout, and offer to do some volunteer work with those guys. Hook them up.
Cool.
Yeah, how about like daily actions too? Just like simple things at home, or
I mean,
those things add up too.
Yeah, the simple things add up for sure, and I think those. I think we're at that point where a lot of us are kind of open enough that I don't really got to talk about what people should and shouldn't be
Yeah,
doing,
yeah,
because I think we're very tuned in to, the problems that are going on with the world. Climate is an interesting one because before it was kind of out of sight, out of mind. You'd hear about the ice caps melting, glaciers receding, polar bears dying, and that's not in front of me. I can't really see that. I'm not really connected to it. But now we're getting all these erratic storms, and it's very much the tail gets skipped either way. Too much snow, heat wave, crazy windstorm. I was trying to do a pod with Chris a couple years ago, and it was like the craziest windstorm ever. And you had to shut everything down. So we see this stuff happening. So it's prevalent. It's a little bit more, and we're getting these. They're called climate refugees in a sense, and it's like people that are living on the front lines of these places that it's like freaking the water rising is real, and it's places in Florida that are going to be underwater at some point. Griff and I were talking the other day about these like oil rigs and oil companies kind of preparing for this and kind of raising their rigs up a certain level because they knew that sea level rise was going to get there. So they know it's going to happen. So for a lot of us, in our daily lives, we're just kind of going on being humans. But I think just being tuned into it, I think is important. Talk to your friends about it. Have good conversations. Be open to what your kids are into, I think, obviously, just try. I mean, for me, I try to live an examined life and kind of be conscious about, what I'm doing and what I'm trying to do better, It's like be the change you want to see. I think that's the most important, Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
I like that. That's good stuff. I also like we've had some other POW activists on, and the idea of imperfect activism really appeals to me.
Yeah, I think that's a really big one, Chris. And imperfect activism is, doing what you can. We don't have to do everything, It's like as soon as you try to take all this weight on your back, that's like so much weight, dude. You're going to get burnt out so quick. And all of a sudden you're like, dude, it's all me, and it's you, but it's all of us, It's about like getting to these giant corporations of being like, dude, let's elect these people out of office and get climate champions in there. Let's get people that want to care about these places, and it's just a matter of time before our renewables are going to get cheaper than oil and gas. It's a fact. We're like right there. And when that happens, it's good for the economy, So I think a lot of these companies and big businesses, they're already on that path towards changing, but they're trying to,
squeeze the last.
Exactly.
Drop out.
I mean, that's capitalism right there, So it's like, let's flip capitalism on its head and like, let's actually like make a difference,
And vote with your dollars. That's a good.
With your
I love that.
Vote with your dollars, huge, dude. It's like there's so many brands out there doing great things, and just do a little research, do a little knowledge. 1% for the Planet, B Corporation. I obviously work with Patagonia as one of my main sponsors, and I kind of relate to like a thing that I would be using even if I didn't support that company, just because I believe in it. I think that's such a good way to live your life, is just be passionate about something, and support other people that are passionate about these things, that are actually looking to make a change in this world and make it for the better.
Definitely.
A concept that I think's really interesting and it makes the most sense to me, but I'm a little bit perplexed by it. So I think it's a good conversation. It's like, it's just buy less shit, right? Like
Right.
that's like, it's definitely like makes it like every time you buy something, it needs to be made in a factory and shipped and driven across this. And it's like, and most of the shit goes to a giant corporation that, doesn't give a shit about anything, right? A lot of that with the Amazons and things like that. So it's like, but it also is a complex issue, because then if you're buying less stuff, how does the company stay in business? Like, do people lose jobs? Like, what happens to the economy? I'm not an economist, and I don't pretend to know anything about the market, but like, it seems like a great solution, but it also seems like it could be at a certain point problematic, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, as a business, it's like your whole business model is based off, staying in business.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah.
Buying more stuff. I mean, I think, back to like the supporting good brands and, voting with your dollar. It's like, thinking about buying something and thinking about like what that company stands for, their carbon footprint. How does it get there? Is that stuff, transparent? So I can like learn about that stuff. And then going all the way to like how that product's made. Is it made from organic cotton? Is it made, is it made to last a long time? Is that product, you may be, paying a little bit more for something, but it's essentially going to last longer. If that's, if that's product is made from a good brand that you're like, oh, this is actually, I support what these people are doing. Looks like this is actually something rad. And so I want to keep this thing in play, Yeah. I think it's like our landfills are so bogged down with trash that we're going to have to get creative, and we're going to have to, recycle those things in a way that if you get rid of a product, you have to make another product out of that product, So I think the full circle life cycle of something that's on our planet, I mean, as, our population grows, so do all the shit we use. So I think that's the most important thing is like, how do we keep, our carbon footprint down in a sense like that? And I think, it's definitely getting to that way already of, having something and keeping it in play, fixing it if it's broken.
Yeah. Your
passing
pants.
it on.
Your pants had that patch on it. That was really cool. The Patagonias.
Yeah, the worn wear. Yeah, so it's a program that Patagonia started. A lot of other brands are doing great stuff like that now, but it's a whole kind of network and facility prep to repair your gear. So you send it back. Patagonia has kind of a structure set in place at Worn Wear where you can essentially have your old gear and take it to a store or send it back if it needs repair and you want to keep that thing going, sick. Or you can actually get like credit towards getting something new, And I think
you can buy a bunch of cool vintage pieces and also reworked pieces too, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is cool.
Yeah. So I think it's a rad concept. It's incredible, I think, and I'm definitely backing it. And for me, I had Wornwear has this pretty cool. It's called tenacious tape, so it's kind of like duct tape, but for your outerwear. And if you have a rip, tear it on something, patch it up. You can put this tape on it, and it's good as new, and keeps the life cycle of your gear in play, and you're back out there shredding. So I'm back in Wornwear for sure, and it just provides this whole opportunity for you as a consumer to think about, whoa, do I need that new stuff? Maybe I'll buy something used instead of something new. And then actually, maybe I'm going to fix it before I even think about that.
Love it.
I like that too, thinking about like, you're like, oh, maybe this t-shirt is like made from recycled materials. But even better than that, it's like the t-shirt that you're already wearing is like the best. Like not buying anything is the best. Yeah. If you're looking at pure footprint on the planet, it's like
completely.
It's like actually just not like, you might feel great about the recycled thing, but also like just not buying anything is kind of like the ultimate.
It's a statement. It's the most eco thing.
It's the most eco thing you can do is not buy anything, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a cool concept, and it makes sense with like, I've even heard it been talked about with vehicles where you're like, oh, you get a new electric car, and which is phenomenal. But then also you can drive a car into the ground, like driving a car until it does not drive anymore. It's like
way less of a footprint than a brand new electric
car. That's a great concept.
Completely. Yeah. Right? I got a 1980 Land Cruiser right now that, I went from like a Subaru before that, and I'm, kind of the slow as fast model of like, I'm stoked to get there, but I'm going to enjoy the journey in this thing. And I'd like to get a hybrid at some point, but I'm kind of waiting for them to get a little bit cheaper before I get one.
Yeah.
So right now it's like, enjoy what you have and make it work,
Yeah.
And it's opportunity to learn how to fix stuff and, have that, we were talking about it earlier, that craftsman opportunity to learn some stuff along the way.
Yeah. Older things are just simple and nice, and easy to work on. Now you got a wiring harness this big on, like, God forbid anything happens, like a brand new vehicle, because you're just fucked. You can't do anything.
Exactly.
So. All right. I think it's a good time to get into, you know what, Mike?
What?
It's a special part of the show. We do it every time.
Is it when we snort stuff out of the
smelling salts?
bottle? Yeah.
Well, I mean, we smell them. It's
Oh,
not like
you're
we're
talking about-
We don't physically snort anything. Let's be clear. It's
Okay.
like you give
You
it a little
smell
bit of a whiff.
I've only done it once.
All right. Before I name that video part, let's hit a run
Let's
through
get
all
them
smelling
fired
salt.
up. Let's get them fired up.
All right, we're getting too in depth for the name your video part, and I guess
Give
we're
that a
doing
pinch. Give that a pinch. Mike, would you
we're
like
doing
one?
smelling salts.
Go for it.
So it says
These are basically the same as granola.
Same as
essentially.
granola, all right.
These are on the skin track. They're going to give you energy.
This is pharmaceutical granola.
This is their organic USDA approved, grown naturally here in Utah.
All right.
It's actually brine shrimp.
So they're basically growing smelling salts out in the Great Salt Lake
They
right
are,
now.
yeah. We harvest them there. We actually went. We harvested them ourselves.
That's where Bud's is actually. Right now.
He's harvesting
Pomo
brine
has their
shrimp.
own facility.
We have our own. It's
creating smelling salts.
Yeah.
out
We
of
need a
brine.
visual for that. We need
It's eco-friendly. It's solar powered, hydro powered.
Wow.
We make our own salts. Okay, so
Local.
It's
I
locally
love it.
locally grown salts. So, have you done one of these for us? You just give it a squeeze and then you give it a whack.
We don't have to go straight hockey and just freaking
You can
hit
do
it
whatever
with my
you want.
head
I
and
mean,
open it up or something.
I mean, you can do it. It seems
kind
like
of
you're
however you want. Some people hit it hard. Other people kind of.
But you just crack it to open it. Okay.
You squeeze it,
Uh huh.
and it'll pop, and then you give it a whiff.
So I got to go first.
Yeah.
All right. Oh shit. Whoa. Hello.
He's going back for more. He's gonna, no,
You do
that
it
was
like
good.
I did. You squeeze it.
Yeah.
And tease it. Chris.
See, I kind of work. Oh.
Oh Jesus! You guys.
I like to do a figure eight.
Oh, you got.
We got a strong batch.
Oh my
here.
god! I feel like
That's a
I'm a
good
little
batch.
kid at
This
a
is
pool and I
strong
just
batch.
dove
Good
in
batch.
and I'm just like my shorts just melted off me because there's so much ammonia and fucking.
Yeah, those are again
Shit.
organic and local.
Straight from the Salt Lake.
Wow.
All right, it's time for name that video part.
Oh. Oh. Hello. Woo.
All right, we're going to take a quick break and talk to you guys about the IKON Pass. Now, with the IKON Pass, they have access to over 50 of the best destinations in the world. And right now, we got some special springtime offers. Prices go up $100 and promos go away on April 21st. So pick up your season pass now. After this, spring benefits go away, including renewal discounts of up to $100, savings of up to $200 on child passes, an APR for as low as 0% on a payment plan, and of course, immediate access to spring riding at up to 13 destinations. So basically, you buy a pass for next season, you'll have some spring access to 13 destinations, including Big Bear, Snow Valley, Blue Mountain, Stratton, Sugarbush, Snowshoe, Steamboat, Mammoth, Palisades, Winter Park, Tremblant, Solitude, and Deer Valley. IKON Pass Travel is your one-stop shop for adventure. The new 23-24 pass holders buy before April 21st and save $100 on every vacation booked before May 5th, 2023. The good stuff is waiting. And let's get into name that video part. What is your confidence level 0 through 10?
Ooh, name your video part. Is a big one. We're gonna go 2.5.
2.5.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I didn't go easy on them.
You told me what it was, and I was like, wow.
Yeah. Like, I don't think it's a meatball.
It's not a meatball.
But I think he's going to get
but
it.
it's not
not a
a
lob?
it's not a left field either.
Yeah. It's not a meatball, but it's like a slider that's a little bit, it's
not a meatball.
It's a change up is what it is. But it doesn't have a lot of movement. So you can still whale this thing. These are baseball pitch references because people ask me what's a meatball. It's like a meatball is a big baseball coming at you that you're about to just clobber, you know. So it's
Yeah.
more of a change up. Okay, coming at you.
All right.
It's a good day.
Good day.
It's
Better
a good
physical
day.
style.
It's a good day.
WHO. Better physical
It's a
style.
good day.
All right. I think I got it. No, it's a Mueller part.
Booyah.
It's a good song.
Oh yeah.
He is good.
He's airing some sick shit. Half cabs, front ones.
Yep. This is all correct.
But what's the film? Jesus, dude.
What's the film company?
What's the production company?
No, it's Absinthe for sure.
So there's two for three. I mean, I'm going to give you the win. You got Mueller. That's
Absinthe,
good enough for me.
Mueller. We're gonna go Saturation.
Not correct.
We're gonna go Pop.
Correct.
All right.
Wow,
Okay.
hold on. I think I got applause on here. Let's give him some applause.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, good job.
Good job, Forrest. You did a great job.
Great job.
Great job, Forrest.
Awesome.
Love the Absinthe movies.
Awesome.
Your voice has not changed.
They have the most incredible soundtracks. If you ever get a chance, try to find Tribal. Those kind of, we all get into a lot of music through films, and that one had some bangers for sure.
Well, you won this Yeti
Wow.
carry-all.
Carry-all.
It's great. I know you're familiar with their products. You got a bunch of
Nice.
Bombhole merch in there.
I love it, dude. We got the Camino.
You got the Camino 20. I
What?
believe.
What do you think I could take a shower in that thing?
You know
Bring
what
that thing on the glacier. Put some firewood
See,
in there.
what I see you doing with that, I see you going down to the beach.
Yeah.
And you got a towel in there. You got some snacks. You got some granola. You got some matcha. Maybe you got all kinds of crunchies. Some type of patchouli oil type of situation.
And then he empties it out and then soaks his feet with Epsom salts.
Yes, exactly.
You just put a ton of granola in there, a little Aussie, and I just got a fatty bowl.
You just eat
for
you just
boys.
eat right out of it. Yeah,
Right?
exactly. Yeah.
Just one huge spoon.
Yeah, so that thing's perfect for winter, summer, all kinds of activities.
Thanks, boys.
Part 2 of Name That Video Part is for our listeners. It's not for you. So if you know what video part it is, comment on the photo of Forrest when his episode comes out, and that's where we pick our winner on Instagram. Here we go.
Damn.
Okay. Thank you guys for playing Name That Video Part. You know what that was? All right. Let's talk Denali.
Denals. Let's do Denals.
I heard
for
you're
sure.
a summit. You've summited the Yukon Denali before. That's what the. Is that who made it? Your Chevy Yukon.
I think the Yukon Denali. That's two different.
GMC Denali.
Yeah, we drove that thing up to base
GMC
camp
Yukon
for
Denali. Yeah. So you summited some type of SUV, from what I
Yeah,
understand.
what's up with car companies? It's like the Telluride, the freaking
true.
right? Yeah.
Avalanche.
Right, the Avalanche.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus.
Subaru Baja.
The Tundra.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Great names.
I have a Canyon, GMC
got a
Canyon.
Canyon?
Great truck.
Do you drive a Denali?
No, I drove a Tundra, but
You didn't pick one up after you
No.
summited it?
You should have.
but I did. I know a girl named Denali. She's super cool. And then I knew a dog named Denali. R.I.P. Sick dog, but great name. OG. So Alaska Denali. Denals is highest peak in North America. 21 chow. A little bit more than that, but I think something like that. But I think what was the deal? I think Nick and I decided, Nick Russ, to do a Denals trip, and do you have the homie in our horn? We decided to put an all-star cast together. This was like 2019 or some shit, but incredible trip. Pick some homies. It was kind of a trip. On some of those bigger missions, you kind of just want to bring homies. You want to have a crew that's you're going to have fun with.
Mm-hmm.
And Denals, we're like, okay, we're going to go up there for a couple weeks. We heard there's some sick terrain to actually ride up there. Once you kind of get over 20, kind of gets into the death zone where the air's thin up there. Snow is not that good. So it's pretty icy. So it's kind of rolling the dice if you're going to get, good snow. But there is rad terrain up there. So we were on a kind of mission to go shred. This was a shred trip. We kind of assembled an all-star cast, a couple of the homies, myself, Danny Davis.
Wow.
He was a shoo-in.
Awesome.
I got to pick kind of someone that I thought would do great on the trip, so I grabbed Ian Walsh. He was a big wave surfer from Maui, but just has an incredible kind of fitness level. He's on Red Bull with Nick, so definitely dude knows his shit. So I brought Ian with me, and it was pretty rad to have him along. And then we had just a crew of just shredders. Our buddies Harry and Jerry, and then Murph and Clark. So some Colorado and some Wyoming boys. So a bunch of ledges. But yeah, we decided to go up there June and brought enough food and enough gear to stay up there for a month or something, which was epic. Ended up working out, solid weather while we were there. Kind of later you go in the year, the more sun you're going to get. But also less good snow. So I think we were up there in June. It was a great time to go. And yeah, proceeded to get great weather, have a solid crew, and we ended up riding every single line on the mountain that was shreddable. And I think the last time that had been done was like 20 years ago.
And some first descents, right?
Yeah, and a couple of first descents as well. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and so we were able to shred off the actual summit of Denali. Picture perfect day. Not a ton of wind. We were up there at maybe like 10 at night. Got back down to like camp at like midnight or something. It was insane.
Is there a story about some type of like sleeping pad?
Yeah, so on an expedition like that and just snow camping in general, you kind of want to have your amenities dialed. And I think on that particular trip, you didn't want to forget anything. And I think I kind of overlooked maybe a couple items, but there was one in particular that kind of threw me for a spin. And yeah, expeditions, you kind of have different camps that are kind of set and established. So I think I got up to maybe camp 2 and looked into my bag, and I didn't see a sleeping pad in there. And for those new to the camp vibes, that's kind of, you have your sleeping bag, and then the pad is the thing that kind of insulates you from the snow underneath. So I was down a sleeping pad, and I was about to camp on a very high mountain in the middle of nowhere for about a month. And the boys were like, "Oh, it's fine. You'll be good. Like, we got ropes. You can like lay out all the ropes. It's plenty comfy, you know. Like, I got this chair. You can sleep on the chair." You know, so they were trying to make me feel better, and my sleeping pad was back at the airfield, back in town until Keatna. So I was like, fuck, dude, how am I going to get that thing up here? You know, maybe I could have got up to 14 and, you know, offered to barter something for some other dude that was bailing them out. But, yeah, I think we had her in reach, and I was able to hit a homie up that was coming out. My buddies Adam Fabricant, Noah Howell, some other dudes that were going on some super spicy mission, and decided to be like, yo, hook a homie up. We bring my my sleeping pad up. And they're like, yeah, for sure, we got you. But the thing was, you land from town onto this glacier, the Kalhitna. And then from the Kalhitna, where the plane lands, you proceed to like walk like 20 miles up this mountain to get, you know, primed for your summit attempt and to get to zones where you can tread. And so I was like, all right, the pad's back at the airstrip, back down at like 7. And proceeded to just be like, all right, dude, I got to go get that thing. And went on a solo mission.
In June.
You know, luckily the glacier was pretty fat, so that zone's known for just these giant freaking gaping holes that just go to the center of Earth. You know, on the glacier.
Are there critters cruising around?
No, you're up in like the depth zone, so there's nothing up there.
That's
yeah,
good.
but if you did fall in the hole, we wouldn't find you.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless you're roped in.
Yeah.
But the glacier was pretty fat, so I was able to shred all the way down almost. You know, I think I left at like maybe 5 and just kind of left the homies as we were kind of moving up our base camps up to 14. And we were in between like 11 and 14. I was like, all right, go get it. My buddy Clark was like, all right, I'll hang in 11 until you get back. I'll wait, make you some food. So I was like, sick, thanks, dude. So I proceeded to go down there, solo mission, shredded a while, skinned forever, got down, grabbed it, saw some other buddies that I know. They made me some water, gave me a little snack, and it was kind of a quick turnaround. And then I was like, dude, all right, I better get back up before it gets dark. Didn't really get dark that time of the year, so kind of sun just kind of dips over the horizon. So I was kind of just walking forever, and I would just see like something out in the distance, and it's kind of a lot of people that are up there on expeditions, and a ton of people like skiing or just like they're kind of just going climbing the mountain, and you would just kind of see people just you can see them so far away, like 10 miles away on the glacier, and they're kind of like coming towards you because it's kind of the trade route for the mountain. So they're actually on their way back, and you're like, what's up with this guy? Did he have a good trip? Like, did he summit? He kind of looks down. And these are zones where you have to carry your own shit, literally, like your poop.
Mm-hmm.
So they have this like big freaking circle, there's a name for it, can't remember, but you put all your shit in there and you bring it down. Yeah, it's kind of like you get a big ticket and a fine if you don't do that. So this guy's like dragging his shit freaking can down the mountain, and just like, dude, this dude looks gnarly. And all of a sudden you just cross a path, and you're like, whoa, dude. He's on a crazy mission solo, and I'm on a crazy mission solo. Yeah. Like, dude, can't believe I saw another human out here. And I proceeded to just like get up the hill. I think I got back at 2 a.m, just freaking slog. Like I had, at that point, I always had like something sick I was listening to, and I think it was the Beastie Boys book, listening to it. And it was like incredible, read by all these different actors, and Sonic Youth and Kim Gordon and Will Ferrell and all these rad people. So recommend that one for if you're doing Denali. Get on that. But rallied back up, fueled up, and we made it up to 14. And again, just insane trip with a solid crew. We ended up making a sick film about it. It's called The Big One. You can find it on YouTube. I think Rome did it. Solid. One of those trips of a lifetime for sure, and definitely something that I think for Nick, probably myself, that kind of, a little kick in the ass of like, dude, I want to do more stuff like that, And it's definitely something that you're like kind of jumping into a whole different realm of mountaineering and ski mountaineering and snowboard. And that's the stuff that like Jim Zellers and some of these other legends have just got these incredible stories. Jim rode down Half Dome at one point in time, and it's just like this psycho story of this dude like somehow figuring out when snow stuck to this giant face. And it was crazy, dude. So definitely inspo from a lot of these dudes, and pretty rad to kind of jump into something like that where you're kind of taking the time to logistically figure out a place that you want to get to and kind of setting that all up for success, essentially.
Incredible.
I got a bit of information from Andrew Miller, and he said that you did 0 training for that mission too.
Yeah, I think I went to the Mento Ice with Jerry Lopez and Alo before that trip. I love those dudes a lot, and I was like, dude, if I'm gonna go really cold, I might as well get like really hot before that. And usually people are the opposite. It's like you go cold, and then you go down to Mexico for something. But for some reason, I had it in my head. It's like
preheat.
Yeah, preheat, dude. It's like if you're gonna
preheat the oven,
if you're gonna end up on the glacier forever, might as well like just be like, oh, that was kind of sick.
No gear needed down there.
No gear needed, and
chilling.
Yeah, it's like kind of go when everybody goes right, huckle left.
Like that.
I like it.
All right, another thing I want to bring up is you filmed for Further in Jeremy Jones's series, and in that video, there's one of the most gnarliest ragdolls I've ever seen of anybody doing a snowboard, and I think like it's good for the audience, to hear a story of, making a wrong decision and having to go south and what you learned from it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's Further. We were in Japan. It's a pretty, pretty gnar face. And there was a line that kind of I had in my head at the time that, I committed to. Got flushed down the line, just straight like ringered into some rocks, bounced off some stuff. It was like being in like a washing machine at the laundromat in like the fatty ones, just like throw a bunch of shoes in there and some duffels, and you're just like, what is that thing just banging in the wash, dude? It was kind of gnarly. But it was a line that had a clean run out, so I knew at some point I was going to get spit out the other side. But definitely an eye-opening one for me that was like, dude, Sluff is no joke. As much as like we worry about Avies, like Sluff is definitely something that just moves so quick, you know. And that's something when you go to Alaska, you're always kind of like, watch out for your Sluff. Go like left to right, right to left. Kind of have that in mind. And if you are, you know, in that battle with Sluff, either you're gonna have to run it out, or you're gonna have to battle through it. You know. So I think for that one, it was a big one for me, and one that I was like, oh, dude, that shook me up. I ended up being okay from it and went out and rode the next day. And I think that's something to be said about, you get bucked off the horse, you get right back on. You know,
learn it
you got to learn it for sure. And I think a lot of us have a lot of risk that we've kind of went through. And I think it's important to kind of get back out there when you can and be able to kind of work through that stuff, you know, because a lot of times that'll affect you for a long time if you don't.
Agreed.
In the words of Derek Zoolander, they say, what do you do when you fall off the horse? He says, I don't know, Ari, I'm not a gymnast. We got a guest question from Andrew Miller. Here we go.
Good morning, Bombhole. Grandies, Eastone, Mori-san. It's Andrew Miller here. Wanted to call in with a few questions for Forrest. Well, first off, I wanted to give a massive shout out and thank you to Forrest. We've been friends and shooting together for 15 plus years. Forrest, you've helped me so much over my career, especially in the beginning and still to this day. I can't really thank you enough, and there's no doubt I wouldn't be where I am at today without your friendship and support. So thank you so much, man. On the topic of photography and shooting, Forrest, you hustle it so hard, man. You're constantly going on photo missions here and there on such a broad spectrum of adventures with tons of different photographers from all over. It seems like you start from the first snowfall and you keep going until the last snow of summer's melted each season. What I want to know is, you know, after all of these years, what keeps driving and motivating you to still want to shoot? You know, what's your process of inspiration when looking for new places or trying to get certain shots? I always love shooting with you because you bring so many ideas to the table, and we always talk a lot about different angles, and it always feels like way more of a collaboration to get a good photo than just me spraying and praying. Sweet. Well, thanks, guys. I hope you have fun today. Bye.
Love it. Sick, Andrew. Thanks for the question. Huge inspiration and fan of you as well, dude. I mean, there's so many photographers out there, and there's a few, you know, that really stick out as being like some of the greats. And again, it's like to be creative year after year, and whether you're shooting in a resort or, you know, any kind of landscape, it's pretty incredible what you've accomplished and what you continue to do on a daily basis. Yeah, I love photography. On the side, I kind of take a film camera with me everywhere. Just kind of like a little point and shoot, keep it in my pocket. Primarily just to shoot kind of those in-between moments, you know. I love to kind of get the behind the scenes and just kind of have, you know, something so rad about film, and just to have that and just kind of do the whole process of you turn it in and you get something cool back. And we go to these places, might as well document it, you know.
Have the memories, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I shoot a lot on my phone. It's crazy what the iPhone can do now. It's incredible. I mean, you get iPhone shots all the time that are bangers. Had a couple photos published, like here and there. But for Andrew's point, man, I just love to shoot. You know, I love to kind of be out there in the mountains, and I think it shows, you know, for me in terms of the content and kind of continual drive to kind of be out there from the start of the season to the end. You know, I think there's a lot that hasn't been done and has been done that, you know, you can tweak and do something different, you know, get inspiration. It's like we get inspiration from everywhere, you know, from skating, from surfing, surfing especially, but art and, you know, different aspects of, you know, lighting and a place in a landscape. And I think it's such a cool opportunity to like use your own, you know, your own style of shredding and kind of adapt and, you know, morph into, you know, wanting to like what trick would work well at this spot, or, you know, what term would be good, or what's the right time of day to do that, you know. Black and white, you know, color, but I think it's so fun to be able to play with light and play, really kind of think about it. Not so much like, fuck, yeah, this could be a cool trick, but how would this be? This would be really cool, And I think we all go into a season and at a resort at our home zone, and we have these spots, and it's so rad to continue to shred a zone and continue to build off something that you've done before, or do it different, or revisit something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do you guys think?
That.
Dude, you just eloquently answered that.
That was a perfect answer. I mean, I really like what Andrew brought up too, and you talking about shooting. I didn't know you shot photos. Well, I think we all are nerds for this, right?
Too,
we study with these magazines and we study the videos, and so we're already kind of seeing it like a photographer, even if we're not one. But once you pick up a camera and are able to sort of connect with that, someone like Andrew, who's, I agree, completely amazing. You can probably even take that to the next level together and collaborate. I love that collaborative thing.
Dude, that's such a cool opportunity to work with someone and to, work with, Todd Gleiser. Todd Gleiser, I think he's a surf guy. Legend. Takes incredible photos, but he's worked with Slater or Machado and just continues to get these really cool, unique images that are just like, wow.
Iconic.
They're just so rad. And, even Thomas Campbell or Spike Jones that have kind of been in the game for so long, and they've kind of adapted and doing different mediums, but they've kind of all kind of originated from photo and really been able to kind of create, work that continues to be inspirational, that kind of has set the bar and set the standard for what we're doing now, Snowboarding is hard, dude. It's really hard to like be, even from like the side of a heli, like looking down, like what kind of Justin has kind of established in Alaska. It's like, or, some of like the climbing photographers, it's like those dudes are like Nat Geo war photographers. Like some of the best photo guys that I see a dude and I see how bent his camera is and how, bashed in. I'm like, dude, that thing's been around. It's probably seen some stuff, So it's rad to see, just tap in and check what people are doing and, ask questions and, don't be afraid to like ask a photographer or an athlete, what's up? Like, where do you get this inspiration from? Or what do you think about this? Would this be cool? And dude, we're all open and we're all really stoked to share that info. And I think that's another thing of snowboarding that, continues to produce incredible, athletes and incredible media people that now in the future, I think we're in a good place for that.
Agreed.
I like what you guys do too in the bigger mountains, because I think in maybe more street snowboarding, it's so trick based. Or a lot of the photos that I think about, it's like you want fisheye and the stairs, and it's like the body mechanics and the trick look really cool, the way it fills the frame and fills the page, and the rider's the main subject in the middle of the frame in a lot of the stuff we do. But a lot of the stuff that you do is just like, Andrew is incredible at that, as well as taking a picturesque peak and like lighting and, alpenglow or whatever's going on, and just like capturing that toe side on a little wave, or little just whacking some type of, rock face, like right underneath it, right above it or whatever, and like, and it's like something you would frame, and you're like, damn, that's like a photo that would go in National Geographic.
It's like fine art.
Yeah, it's like fine art.
Right.
Like I look at a lot of Andrew's stuff, and I've actually DM'd him this before, but it looks like fine art.
Yeah.
In a lot of cases.
Yeah.
And you have action mixed in, so it's really a beautiful thing.
For sure, dude. It's incredible, dude. There's again to like playing with light and kind of, the thought process of picking a spot and then doing a trick or a turn or a line there. It's like bigger picture style. It's like actually this landscape and this like spot with a rider in it. It's like it's art. It's definitely like brings that whole other element and depth and dimension into photography and into our sport, which I think is such a rad thing. And I think too, like some of the most iconic shots that we see are kind of along those lines, that it brings so much more depth into like the story behind that thing, behind that trick or behind that spot or line that you're just like, dude, makes you kind of want to go to these places. And it's like, yeah, to do that same thing there, but also just to like be like, whoa, dude, that's that spot, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty rad. And, you know, growing up as a kid, you would do that with skating, you know? You'd
Totally,
take the bus to a spot and just be like, dude,
Iconic spot.
it's rad.
Yeah.
Love that.
And just as much so, like a 35 millimeter fisheye photo of somebody like with some motion blur on it is almost like just as much of an art.
Oh,
You know?
yeah.
For sure,
Right? It's like
dude.
it's so beautiful that we have such, you know, yin and yang, and there's room for it all. So it's
Yeah,
great.
that's what makes it so rad, you know? I love that. I was on this trip recently for Yeti with my buddy Kyle Connington. He's this epic chef, really kind of high-end chef. Michelin star dude, and he makes these epic dishes. They're called Denabe. And he brought us word kashiki. And the Denabe is this earthenware pot where you make this dish, cook it all day long. You have these incredible conversations, you know, about life, and then you eat it. Yeah, and we were kind of on this epic porch doing this shoot for Yeti where I was kind of sharing my experiences with him on Japan, and then at the same time, he was sharing his stuff that he learned from there. And he brought up this word on lighting and framing. It was really cool in terms of how me as a split boarder and kind of what I'm into, how I'm kind of framing up the mountains in a way like that, where it's more of like this deep, meaningful thing. It's kind of sick.
All right, that's beautiful. Well, we happen to have a guest question from none other than Josh Dirksen.
Hey, Forrest, it's Dirksen. Excited to hear that you're sitting down with the Bomb Hole crew. You nervous? I was nervous. But anyways, I got a question for you. It seems like you've always been connected with the coolest brands and products. I think it's one of the many qualities that make you an amazing pro snowboarder. Some sponsors like Jones and Patagonia you've been riding for decades, while other sponsors were short and sweet. Can you list all of your sponsors, starting with the beginning? Which sponsor was your favorite? Which sponsor was the most unique? Look forward to hearing your episode. Have fun. See ya.
Yes, Josh. Josh is a ledge. Not only does he have an insane turn, but he's a super good friend of mine, a homie. Kind of competing with the Bomb Hole Cup, but he's got the Derby. I'm excited to hear there's a splitboard race this year, Bomb Hole Cup. We've been trying to do one in Europe for the Derby, so at some point it's going to happen. Postponed until next year, so TBD. But yeah, to Josh's point, we're all kind of gear nerds in a sense, and kind of goes along with snowboarding and, you know, talking about product and diving in deep to the nitty gritty on rad stuff. I know kind of Craig Kelly was a big product nerd as well. And it's rad being able to kind of work with a brand and kind of dive in deep and actually like see something that you got to help work with and help kind of bring to life. But yeah, talking about the brands that I've worked with, there's been so many over the years, so I'm not going to list like from when I started to where I am now. There's probably too many, but I'll mention Allion Snowboards again. Allion was probably one of the funner ones, that it was just like such a rad crew, and an opportunity for me to, you know, use that, you know, mode of transportation, which is snowboarding, and get to Sweden and get to Japan and, you know, have these incredible time with Igmar and Strom and Pierre Wakeberg, and get to Japan and, you know, do demos. I mean, I think I didn't mention, but I was in Japan at this crazy demo one time for Allion, and it was for LibTech, and like Pete Sari, Jamie Lim was there, Willie McMillan, pretty incredible. And it was like the most psycho park demo ever. There was the biggest hip I've ever seen, and there was an opportunity to hit the hip, or you could air all the way over it and just freaking spine gap this giant freaking setup. Springtime. At a time where I didn't go there to ride POW. And it was kind of sick. Super fun. Yeah, and I proceed to we're warming up to hit like this whole thing, like a fucking giant hit, and proceed to see Ingo air this thing over the top, and we're at the top of the run-in, and we see him bounce off the top, off the deck, and there's all these pads, and just didn't clear it, bounced. Somehow Igmar's skills kind of landed back on his feet. Well, we're like, dude, that was gnarly. I think he collapsed his lung or
Oof.
something. So he had to chill in Japan for a couple more weeks.
Wow.
It was kind of mess, dude. But I think me and Strom, we were simultaneously doing methods. He's rag, I'm goof on both sides of the hip.
Wow.
And it kind of worked out. So somebody else did it with me, but I remember airing over the whole thing and doing a back 3 or something, but it ended up like shutting down this demo. And it ended up being an incredible party after that.
Awesome.
I remember like hanging out with both Willie and Jamie on that trip. Pete Sari and a lot of the Lib guys. Super fun. I think Jesse Burtner was on that trip as well. But yeah. Great guys, great time in my life. But now it's, it's interesting. As I kind of got into splitboarding, it kind of opened up incredible opportunities to work with brands that I wouldn't normally had worked with before. Probably the best one is Patagonia. Clif Bar, I work with Hestra gloves. I work with Yeti coolers. I work with Vuarnet. Union Minings as well. And yeah, it's been Protector Winners, nonprofit, but incredible opportunity to work with these brands. Jones Snowboards obviously is the big one. Wouldn't be anywhere without those guys. But yeah, I'd probably say working with Jones and both Patagonia, they've kind of stuck to their guns on kind of doing things their way. And I think there's something to be said about that, kind of sticking to making a product that, you kind of have an idea of what you want. Obviously, Jones with Jeremy kind of being the spearhead of that, making boards for kind of entail what you want to use them for. Came out some really rad products. We'll just kind of touch on the hovercraft, which is kind of this board behind me. It's kind of my split of choice. Hover project that's going to be coming out next year with those guys. So look out for that. But the hover is this insane, crazy shape that kind of simplified down, kind of a somewhat swallowtail. But I remember being at like the deeper premiere in Salt Lake or some shit. And all of a sudden, Dmitry Malovich, which is like a legend, kind of a Willy Wonka dude from Utah that's super recluse, winner 6 snowboards. But yeah, he just came up to Jeremy and was like, dude, what is up with this shape? He was tripping on it, and I don't think he like said that about a board in like who knows how long. Just came out of the woodwork and said that.
Mm-hmm.
Something to be said about, paying attention to shapes. And so yeah, and working with Chris on the surf series, there's been some rad stuff coming out of Jones lately. But Patagonia would probably be the big one and the one that I'm most stoked to work with. And the brand that I've seen kind of put themselves out there in a way, that obviously they've been a privately run company, so they can, in a sense, do that. But then also just putting the environment first, and there's something to be said about Fattire is another one that I've worked with over the years. Fattire's been great because they're just kind of not afraid to be like, oh, dude, we're going to make this beer that basically it was like a beer that was like burnt hops or something. It was called like Scorched Earth. It was basically like, this is how beer is going to be in the future if we don't think about how our agriculture is going and how we're growing these hops. So it's basically like, beer is going to cost $100 in the future, and this is what it's going to taste like. So if you want freaking good stuff, you better freaking pay attention to that stuff. So I love brands that are willing to put themselves out on the line. And then essentially back to Patagonia, working with them closely on their product, and to something that Mike mentioned, it's really interesting to think about your layering system and kind of, this is more on some granola kind of crunch talk.
But, I want to hear it. This is a question.
I was curious earlier.
Yeah, this is something that, you think about. Another skin track conversation where you're like, dude, I got so much time on my hand. It's like, what am I wearing? Am I sweating right now? Mm-hmm. It's like, what is going to work for the best for me? Like when I'm moving, and this goes all the way from like the articulation of the way the fit is on a garment, all the way to what it's made out of, and how, if it's breathable. And essentially you get down to where like, man, dude, you can actually wear like a layering system and actually have your base, your mid, and your shell all work together as like one unit. And all of a sudden you're like, dude, I feel really good about my kit because I not only I look good, but it's working well. Yeah. And there's something to be said about, if it's a sticker job on your skateboard or your snowboard that you're like, dude, I'm going to ride better because I'm looking down on this thing and I'm actually liking it. But it's like a whole nother level when it's actually a product that's like actually going to enhance your time out there, going to allow you to be out there longer, and it's going to maybe save your life because it's going to keep you dry. And the more you get into some of these tech, sports and, things that you need a little bit more gear, and you need to like think about the gear a little bit more to do these things, that you're more like, oh, actually, I think I'm going to, get this sick puffy because I'm going to need it when I get to the top of the mountain. I usually do, to Chris's point earlier, it's like, go light, start cold. Be bold.
Be bold, start cold.
Because you're going to usually
I actually
work
came
out.
up with that. I was the first person to ever say that.
Right? I like that. Bomb hole.
Definitely not.
Right here. But I was like, dude, I go pretty light when I'm out there because I'm always moving. I'm always in motion. And you don't
So
need
what's
it.
your kit? I mean, what's your...
I'll do...
Go from the bottom layer.
Yeah, I'll do kind of like, just kind of the simple, some dope socks, kind of a base layer kit, and then kind of a 3-layer gore pant. I'm kind of on the Danny stees right now, where I'll run the volley strap to kind of keep my shit tight on the bottom. I don't like really baggy at the bottom. A lot of the pants do have like a cinch cord, so you can tighten it up. So I usually tend to go a little bit baggier fit on the pant. But again, it's like 3-layer gore. So you want something that's going to be waterproof. You want something that has pit vents, shed some air, shed some when you get hot, and then shut it down when you get cold. And then on top, just kind of like a nice merino tee. And then we have these sun hoodies at Patagonia. Those are kind of gold. Those work for anything, any sport. And you can kind of use it as it's a hoodie, kind of just a nice kind of in between like a base layer and a mid, I guess. And then I'll wear like a vest or kind of like a really lightweight, breathable mid layer. And then I'll have my shell. And then this is kind of like a hack for me, which I really like, is I have a big puffy in my pack. Obviously, it's there for when I need it, but I throw that on when I get to the top of the peak.
Over your shell?
Over my shell, yeah.
Just a quick warm up?
Exactly,
and then
dude.
do you throw it back in the shred?
Yeah. That's a nice move to where you can kind of, if you're up there chilling, you're waiting on light, you're waiting on a sucker hole to come so you could drop. And a lot of times you're up there for a while. So it's like nice to be warm. And if you have to like take off your jacket, get that puffy on and off, and then it's like a whole other step that, when the light hits, you want to be ready to drop.
Yeah. Probably a good thing to have if someone gets injured too.
Exactly,
Keep
dude.
warm.
Super good. But it's crazy to, just one little point on that, having product that works for multiple different things, like that's kind of like a lot of people don't think about that. They make something that's like, okay, this is the end thing that we're going to use this for. But I mean, that's another thing of like back to the basics and less is more. It's like have something that's going to be good for a lot of things. Have that like multi-tool kit that you can use for, lots of stuff. Yeah.
Love it.
I got a question. Splitboarding. I run like a pipe glove for the like touring, and then like transitioning, like having more of a utilitarian style glove, and then throw on some like mittens for the down. Do you do that, or do you run one pair of gloves?
No, I usually have like some pretty fatty mitts that are kind of these Hestra ones are like extreme mitts. They're kind of love them. Love to design one with those guys at some point. They're dope.
They make good stuff.
Yeah, leather gloves. But and then I'll kind of do like almost like a little sleeping bag glove for the up. Something light, to your point. It's like when you're going up, you don't really want something heavy. So it's nice to kind of have two pairs.
What do you wear transitioning?
I'll just kind of keep that like little lightweight glove on.
Yep.
Some kind of lightweight for the up, and and then something good for the down. But it's nice to have like a big warm set of gloves for sure. Yeah,
for sure.
If you can.
Would you recommend when you transition from a split to a solid, keeping your gloves on, taking them off? You're on top of a summit.
I'd probably keep them on, if you can, on those light gloves. A lot of time we're finagling with our stuff and scraping ice and all that. And you can take them off, but make sure to kind of keep your scene dialed. A lot of times the wind pickup, it'll be quick, like 40 mile per hour gust, and your shit's gone. And that goes from like your gloves So like I've seen that with like a split board skin. All of a
Mhm.
sudden your skin is just bam, dude, it's off the mountain. It's
Yeah.
on the other side and you're like, fuck, dude. Guess I'm screwed there. So it's like keep your scene dialed. And again, when you're like in an Avi scenario and you know all of a sudden it's red alert, like
Mhm.
keep your kit with you or just make sure it's all in a tight package because the
Mhm.
last thing you want to do is like have your stuff all over the mountain.
For sure.
We're gonna get into the pub beer crapshoot. What that means is that you got to roll these 2 dice right here, and I'll tell you what you got to do. I got some theme music. Hold on, let me find it. Okay.
Welcome to the Pub Beer Crapshoot.
Pub beer supports the show. If you're thinking about having a couple ice cold brewskis responsibly, support a brand that supports snowboarding. Vote with your dollar, as they say, and support Pub Beer. And they got a killer team, 10 barrel. You know, they got Ben Ferguson on there.
Mm-hmm.
Bunch of rippers. So, yeah, roll the dice, and we'll tell you what you got to do.
You ever played Farkle, Chris?
Farkle?
Yeah.
No.
It's like a 6 dice game. We played on the glacier a lot.
I've never played, no.
Dude,
Never
we
played
had to
either.
hit it sometime. Really easy.
More of
So
a,
we love dice, but we got 2 dice.
what about Uno? You guys ever play Uno?
Uno's great.
Yeah, I'd be like
Uno's solid.
Love
fucking
Uno.
up some Uno out
All
there.
right, here we go. Ooh, we got a Goon Gear.
6. Goon Gears is 6
Goon Gear's a 6.
plus.
We got a Snake Eye. We got a 1.
So you got 7. This is a great question.
7's a good number.
Who's one of your favorite people to party with?
Favorite people to party with? We're gonna go with Christensen. Yeah, he's definitely kind of a rogue one. That all of a sudden he's like dancing with the stars, or he's like on the side of a game, hanging out with Queens of the Stone Age, just always kind of up for something. So we're gonna go with Chris. He's kind of a ledge in that sense. But yeah, dude.
Great answer.
Awesome.
All right, we're also going to get into hot takes. We do this every episode. Hot takes is presented by Oakley. I recently started wearing a brain bucket, a helmet, run the Oakley Mod 1 Pro. The Oakley Mod 1, also a great option, a little bit lighter. And then I run the Oakley Line Miner goggles. They're insane. The prism lens. Been really, really happy with that product. And a little fun fact, I run like a beanie underneath. That's the key. I run like a thin kind of scully beanie underneath.
Mm-hmm.
And then my setup with my goggles and my helmet is just dialed in. So Oakley supports the show. We really appreciate them. So if you want to support them, go right ahead. With that being said, we're going to get into hot takes. Now, first question. Michael Jordan, greatest of all time, GOAT. To you in snowboarding, both male and female, who you got?
Oh man, I've been thinking about this one. So many goats out there. Yeah, Michael Jordan, LeBron, but yeah, just 1 and 1. I'm gonna go like kind of wild here.
Okay.
We're going Johan Olofsson.
Wow.
That's sick.
Yeah.
Johan is a beast.
Makes
Yeah.
sense the way you ride, too.
Yeah, we're gonna go with Johan because he kind of like took that inspo from Craig and Tom Burt, some of the other heavies, and kind of put a little spin on it.
Major power.
Right? Yeah, I think it's kind of rad how a lot of folks came from pipe and then kind of went on to kind of bring it into mountain, Blaval. A lot of folks.
Travis
for sure, dude.
B-Ferg.
Aaron Awareness. And then for women, we're going to go with Victoria Jalous.
Oof.
Yeah, we're going to
Great
kind of
choice.
keep it on that,
She's incredible.
Same level for sure. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of insane lines from her and just incredible style. And yeah.
I got a hard-hitting question. Art or sport? Is snowboarding art or sport?
We're going to art. Yeah. Yeah, we're going art. You know that Earth sticker? It says art in the middle.
Yeah, like Earth, EARTH.
Yeah, weren't you talking about Shart recently? Or is that
Yeah.
is that your new...
Oh, I tried to get vanity plates
Yeah.
for the limo to say Shart, and it was either taken or rejected, but when I submitted them...
What'd you get?
It got declined. Soft log. We went with soft log.
Also really well.
Yeah, so pretty good. Kind of a
Love
choose-your-own adventure. Could be... it's kind of a diarrhea or whiskey dick reference, really. So anyway, keep it moving. Not about the soft log right now. Okay, so art or sport. Okay, next one is most underrated. What do you got?
Most underrated. We're going to go with my homie Stratton out in Bend. He's the dude that's been on the biking to shred every day.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of a savage, dude. I know a lot of the Ben homies know him, but yeah, let's get him into the mix.
Okay, next question. Biggest beast on the skin track?
Biggest beast on the skin track? Jeez, dude. Biggest beast on the skinner? Dude, I can't really think about him right now. We'll probably go Jones. Yeah, Jones is kind of a sandbagger on the skin track. He's kind of one of those ones that really like kind of reserves. And all of a sudden, end of the day, 4 p.m., it's getting dark, and he's like seeing something else to go ride. And he's like, dude. But he kind of like sandbags you in a sense where he's like, makes you talk him into doing it. So you're like, damn, dude, I guess we're going up that thing. Which I love that. It's rad to see someone that still has energy in the tank at that point of the day.
Especially hanging with you because you're a psychopath. Okay, steel or powder?
Dude, we're going POW. I love steel for sure. Love steel, but we're going POW at this point. But yeah, fun fact, first shot I ever got in a mag was on a wood log, soft log in the pipe at Super Pipe Camp.
That's so dope.
No pun.
Best style ever. Who you got?
Best style ever? Jeez, dude. Oh my god. Best style ever? I'm gonna go Craig.
Salido.
Yeah.
Good answer. Best snowboard video ever made, in your opinion?
Best snowboard video ever made, in my opinion.
These are easy questions.
Dude.
Just throwing in some easy ones.
We're going Meltdown Project.
Good answer.
Yeah, we're gonna keep it
Dope.
on like kind of the greats.
I think they're important to like see what people are about. It's like
Yeah.
No, I love it.
It's like his answer, Johan, like being like, it's like tells you can tell a lot about somebody.
Yeah.
You know.
I love it.
Okay, next question is best board graphic ever, in your opinion. These are all to you. You know,
Right.
it's like this
Yeah,
is
best
like
board graphic.
like who hit. You know, what's your favorite? I think about that because everybody's arguing. Oh, this
Yeah,
person's the
right.
greatest of all time. It's like, who's your greatest of all time? Like, who's yours? You know what I mean? That's what we're asking.
Totally. Best board graphic of all time. Oh my god, bro. There's so many good ones. I think I'm gonna go with Mike's with the little fighting Irish guy. Yeah.
That's sick. That was binding, but I appreciate
Yeah, I was gonna
that.
say that's a Drake.
It was a binding, yeah.
Drake's great.
Yeah.
Thank
I kind of like IKON, kind of like logos.
It was pretty skate in a time of
Yeah.
not skate.
Yeah.
On bindings at least.
Right. Yeah. I'm kind of on a like an Irish kick right now. I like to
Mhm.
go to Ireland in the summer. So
Sweet.
yeah, I'm gonna go
Thank
with
you.
that. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Then we got best method.
Oof.
That's a new one. We just added that.
Best
a great
method, dude.
question.
That is a solid question. Oh man.
In
dude.
your opinion.
We're gonna go with Ferg.
Wow, new
Nice.
gen.
Yeah.
What is new gen?
Yeah, Papa
Nice.
Ferg. Yeah.
He's got a tough method. He really
he does,
kicks
dude.
it out.
Yeah, it's been in the mix lately, so it's good.
You know, who's a low key method? I'm just gonna derail for a
Who?
second. One of the best methods on planet Earth, Brock Crouch.
Really?
Like Brock's.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I saw him do one actually recently. I was impressed.
I like how he holds melon, kicks it out, man.
Mhm.
Those are my favorite. Okay. What do we got left? Pants over or under the high back?
Under.
Respect. You go heliboarding with 3 people. Good times. Just wiggling down the snow cameras.
Could be
Mhm.
anybody. Could be a boarder.
Totally.
Could not be a boarder.
Could be a celebrity.
Yeah.
Could be anybody. You just imagine they could be in a heli.
Right. We're gonna go. Man, I think we're gonna bring Yvonne Chenard up there, and just for some banter, and then we're gonna bring Jones, just to see if he's still got it, and then we'll bring Chris because he never really gets to heli.
Sick.
Respect, dude. Yeah, get me in that. Get me in the bird. Let's go.
He's talking about Christensen, dude.
Oh.
But you can come too.
Oh, I thought you were talking about me.
You
man.
can take my seat, bro.
No, it's all good. No, take
Were
Chris.
you talking
take
about Chris or Chris?
Well, he's been calling me Chris too. He's been calling me Chris.
I mean,
nobody calls me
I
Chris.
just wanted to clarify.
Thank you.
It's rad how there's so many mics this year that were just like so on topic, and there's always a lot of Chris's. Dude, Forrest was so popular right now.
I'm actually gonna end this fucking
Crazy.
interview. I'm so fucking mad. I'm so mad. I'm not going Hellion. This interview's over.
Chris, I would take you.
You're gonna take me?
Take my spot, bro.
I'll take you 3 times. Screw everybody else.
That would be fun, Mike. Let's do it.
3
You know what?
trips.
Let's spitefully do it in spite of Forrest.
Let's go to the top of Denali next time he's hiking. Beat him to the
Right
top.
when he sets the Ellie to the top of Denali.
I love it.
Funny to see you guys up here.
So amazing.
You guys walk up here? I just got dropped off.
They're like 20
my
steps away and we're
gosh.
landing on top. With like turkey sandwiches and pizza and shit.
Oh, it's so good.
McDonald's. Yeah, I like it. Okay. Beaver slap. Oh, you were in the lift line. You hit those things, or you just? What's your vibe on that?
Can I go semi beef?
Yeah, semi beef.
Yeah, just like a little. Yeah.
Okay, worst trend. What do you got?
Worst trend in snowboarding: not caring about the planet. Yeah.
Good answer.
All right, Chris. So I brought you this present here. I've been trying to think about rad stuff to provide for the show and give back to the sport. You guys do a lot, and I really appreciate it. Keep it going, dude. Big fan.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate
But I brought this book, and this is kind of a good one, not only for Utah, but also the environment, and one that kind of, it's a great just common ground, and it's The Monkey Wrench Gang by Edward Abbey. And this was something that I read a while back, and something that I kind of reference every couple of years with a reread, and kind of looks like a thick boy, but it's actually pretty deep with, it's got a planet on the front, and it's got a couple wrenches. So it's kind of about going against the status quo and kind of being a punk rock in a world of non-punk rockers.
Thank you for the gift. I really
Yeah, bud.
appreciate that, and I will read this.
Wonderful
And,
book.
And have you read it, Mike?
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome.
Great
Is
author.
fiction, nonfiction?
Well,
Yeah.
it comes off as fiction, but I think there's a lot of truth. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's definitely kind of an out there one, but you kind of bring it back to, you're like, oh, any of my homies could be doing that, you know?
Okay, so
Almost like
there's-
Scotty Whitlake's on a path similar right now, just kind of out there being a Rambo.
Cool.
But doing
Sick.
it yourself. But yeah, it's kind of based in Salt Lake and kind of based off the environmental movement on taking it into your own hands when it
Fuck
kind of
yeah.
gets out of control. So yeah, based on true story.
I appreciate that. That's a really good gift as a book. So I thank you for that, and I will definitely read that. And before we get out of here, and also I'd like to say, like, I don't actually spend a lot of time in that space. Like my mind isn't there a lot, and so it'll be good for me to explore that.
Nice.
And so I'm excited to read that.
Sick.
So before we wrap it up, we always do thank yous. You want to thank anybody before we get out of here?
Yeah, just thank to my parents for sure, you know. My dad's been a big mentor for me on the environment and on life. Thank my mom for being athletic as a kid and kind of being open and, you know, driving us to surf contests when I was young. And yeah, I just want to thank all my friends for sure. Big time. Utah, California, Northwest, everywhere, you know, all around the world. Snowboarding is kind of that great connector that we all have, and it's rad and beautiful that we all embrace sharing that knowledge and, you know, lifting everybody up. So, and big shout out to my sponsors. You know, I wouldn't be able to do it without those guys. So it's rad to kind of continue the relationships with those guys and support athletes as they evolve and keep lifting them up and creating that space to get them out there.
Amazing. Well, Mike, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Forrest,
Mike.
it was a pleasure to hang out with you.
Likewise, brother.
Yeah.
It's been a fun chat. It's been awesome. And so thank you guys so much for everybody that supports the show, everybody that listens, everybody that's Patreon, all of our sponsors. We really, really, really appreciate you guys so much. And once again, thanks for coming on, Forrest. And we appreciate you. And we'll have another episode coming at you next Wednesday. Over and out from the Bomb Hole.